Hello, welcome to the Impromptu StarCraft 2 talk show, hereby known as Is. I hope you are looking forward to the talk show about StarCraft because we haven't had one in a long time. And at one point, that would have been sarcasm. About 10 years ago, there would have been a billion talk shows. But there really hasn't been a talk show in a little while. And recently, we got the announcements for EPT 23, 24, because our global finals happens in next year. But anyways, I figured it'd be a good time to bring back ye old StarCraft 2 talk show and talk about that and whatever else comes up with these lovely people and take questions from chat and all the good stuff that talk shows do with the high quality production that only I can bring you guys. So thank you for watching. If you want to get a link to the announcement they're going to be talking about, it is !EPT. Again, production is just nailing it. And now we can talk about it. So let's go ahead and bring it up on stream. Well, you guys can also go with that link. Okay, everyone just did it. I mean, only one had to do it, but that's all right. So let's go ahead and jump on over there and talk a little bit about it. So there was two links. So I actually think I don't have the second link because it was very hard to find, actually. But this one, I think, is the one that has the most details, and the other one was a summary, I think. So this should be the most important one anyways, all right? I think it's how that goes.
I didn't know there was a second link at all.
Are you talking about the one that came out like a month ago, or?
No, there's like a summary. So I was reading it off the stream, and then there's one that actually has the details.
Oh yeah, there's one. It just went up that was like, hey, here's when here's the scheduling of the qualifiers and things.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think this is the one with all the details. So I think so. Anyways, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong and actually link the right one. But this, oh yeah, this is the other one. I think yeah, this is the summary. So I was correct. Great.
Oh, the summary one is the one that came out like in February. Then
the green link in this link.
Does it? Yeah, that came out in February.
What's you're right.
It says February 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Okay, you're my bad. That is the one a month ago. So I was reading the wrong one earlier, but that's fine. That's what we're doing this talk show. I did find this one eventually, and this is the most important one, and this is the one that's linked. So I still nailed it. After a brief moments of confusion, let's go over it. And feel free to jump in at any point when you guys have strong opinions about something, all right? So, first and foremost, we do have 2 dream hacks this year, which is similar to last year, but of course has been not similar to any year previous. In 2019, we had 3 dream hacks, and before that, we would have 4, plus a bunch of other tinier ones. So that was already something that was being lessened, and they're going to continue with that, but with smaller prize pools. And the dates of the tournaments are not particularly worth talking about. Summer is going to be in Sweden in June, and Atlanta is the winter one right before Christmas. But the more interesting stuff happens with the format update. So, first and foremost for the discussion today, let's talk about Swiss groups.
Ooh.
Yeah, all right. So, Swiss groups are now going to be the format for regionals, and the amount of regionals has been reduced down to 3. So, I'm going to go ahead and start with the format, and then we'll talk about the reduction in amount of regions afterwards, because the Swiss format, if you all remember the old format, the group stage would happen and no one really paid attention to what part of the group stage it was or what group it was anyways, because all the scheduling was really crazy and it had everyone play everyone. So you would have Cyril face off against someone that he was, guaranteed going to stomp on. It wouldn't be really fun, but we'd have to do it. And then we moved on. Swiss format is going to have the winners face the winners and losers face the losers. If you win 3, you advance. If you lose 3, you're out of the competition. That's the basics of it, which I don't think is that complicated. But, what are your guys' opinion on the new change? Do you think that it needed a change? Because I certainly think it needed a change.
I think one thing that I'll say, there's upsides is kind of what you were talking about, which is you get matches that tend to be a bit more even, especially toward the end of things. downsides is that I think scheduling wise, it actually can be really, really hellish to do because effectively with the Swiss format, you cannot advance to the next round of the Swiss thing until everyone from the previous round is played. So like in a LAN event or something, if you had like Swiss format or something going on, every single match has to finish up. But that also means you don't know who your next opponents are until after everyone's like finished playing a round. I'm very curious how that's going to affect like practice and stuff. I'm also really curious what the schedule is going to look like for this and if it's going to be like players playing 4 or 5 days a week to in order to play all the Swiss format games and what. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's something that we don't necessarily have to worry all that much about a lot of the time because that's the admin's duty. But that obviously is going to impact the players as well because they won't have that time to prepare.
And also, if there is a situation where it's like their players are having to play like 4 or 5 days a week, and you have a bunch of players who are not full time in, say, like North America and Latin America and China and Taiwan and Oceania and all that stuff, like even in
Don't
Europe,
worry,
like,
we're getting rid of those players.
They don't exist.
we're removing them. Yeah,
That's what this is about.
I mean, I would actually even say go so far as to say, like North America, you have maybe 3 full-time players left because Neeb retired. So it's I think I am curious how scheduling and stuff is going to work, and I know that in the past there have been many players that also were not a fan of the play almost every single day for even like the round robin stuff. So this I don't know what the schedule is going to look like is my point, but this can make it more complicated and add additional restrictions. So I'm very curious to see how it shakes out and if that's going to exacerbate that problem.
I guess one of the things, Fear Dragons. So if you're playing a Swiss bracket, you're playing a maximum of 5 series, a minimum of 3 series, right? Because you have to win 3 before you lose 3. So I guess on the one hand, that's kind of rough for players who are going to be on the bubble, the players that we're, I guess, most worried about, because they're most likely to go to that 5th and final series to qualify or not. But on the flip side, this does mean that you're going to have at maximum 5 play days, which cuts in half the number of play days that people would have had compared to DreamHack Europe last year. So yeah, maybe it's a little rough, but at least from the perspective of, wow, you have a lot of days to play at, I got to assume it's going to be easier to take 5 days off than, take 3 days or than take 2 weeks off.
I think I see what you're saying.
Right. So
yeah, there's fewer.
Swiss
Each player is playing fewer matches. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the difference is in the previous round robin stuff, it was common for players to play 2 matches in one day. Like that was a frequent thing that I think would happen sometimes. And that reduced the amount of matches that overall, like, or a number of days you have to be available. But the whole thing I was saying about the round or the Swiss format is that you don't even know who your next opponent is until every single match is played. So I think it's going to be very difficult to schedule more than one Swiss format match per player for like any given day. It's going to be like you play 1 match today because
we have,
otherwise you're just jumping in with 0 like prepreparation.
Yeah, we have.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen. Is that you're going to have a lot of players just not getting to prep.
There are going to be 12 total play days for Europe, probably, right? If we assume Monday doesn't happen as it normally has. I'm going to assume that each Swiss round is going to be multiple days. So I don't think it's going to even really be a question of, well, players want to be able to play 2 games on the same day. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if that's possible when we have what is it? 32 players? 32 players in 2 groups of 16. I don't know that there's a way that you can get away with playing that many Swiss games in one day and doing multiple Swiss rounds on the same play day.
Yeah, so, assuming that there is 1 or maybe 2 streams or something, and not doing what was happening in the past, which was like having some rounds of round robin, 4 matches played at once, and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We actually have no idea what their scheduling is going to be like.
Yeah. We also don't know if it's going to be Swiss format in the group stages of the LAN events, do we?
No, we do.
We know what that is. And
it is going to be?
Yeah, let me link my tweet.
Yeah.
Because that actually is going to be super complicated for LAN events. I think Ravi makes an excellent point that like having to wait for everything.
Yeah.
It's a
I'm
mess.
almost positive they're not doing Swiss.
Yeah, they're not
format
doing
for-
No,
Swiss.
they've
They're making it a single or double elimination bracket, like multiple double elimination brackets for the LAN.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, I did read that.
Yeah, so we'll
Kind of
talk
awkward.
about that in the future. So this is strictly for online, the regionals guys. But the thing is also, and this isn't really revealing information because it's basically a we don't know. We don't know what we don't know what we don't know. We don't even know what the production is going to be like. Like there is a world out there where it's not at all like it was last year. And not only does that mean like maybe there's not a host, the panel portion of it's going to be very casual, more like the TSL broadcast, for instance, and that might hurt kind of the storyline, the thread that we always try to keep in line on the broadcast. It also might mean that the casts could be differently organized. In my brain, I'm thinking, is there a world where they can actually fit one region per week and have us cast all of that? Right? Instead of having like China go on first and then Europe. So I'm also thinking about like, because if you could tell someone that they could fit everything in 1 week, so 6 days, and then tell them there's a good chance that you only have to have like 4 days off. Is that better than what has happened in the past or not?
ZombieGrub, how do you feel about 16-hour workdays?
Well,
this is fun.
I don't know. I actually have no idea. I haven't even thought about how long the tournament would be at that point if we did. So it's Asia, North America, and Europe guys out there. So if we did literally 1 week per, we could do that.
7 days.
If we
Are you
did-
including the playoff? Yeah, I mean, I guess you're including the playoffs on that.
Yeah.
How many people go to playoffs from?
it's
It's the same number. It's 8 out of each thing.
Okay.
16 for Europe, right?
Okay. I mean, I don't know that that's written somewhere, but I'm assuming that's
I-
the case.
Well, you can do the math because it's they've divided Europe into 2 Swiss groups.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
First
and
and three,
then
so yeah.
it's half makes it out, half doesn't.
and there's
So
8
wait, is
matches
that-
per. If there's 8 matches per round of each group, right?
Mhm.
So that means that for Europe there are 16 matches for round 1 because there's 2 groups, and then for Americas it'd be another 8. So it's 24 matches per round.
Per round, do you mean?
For each round of the Swiss format, because there's like 5 of those rounds.
Yeah.
So there's a little under 125 best of 3s.
Is that right? That doesn't sound.
Am I off on this?
It would
I know-
be-
So the reason why there's 32 players, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So all of them are going to play in like each round, right? So that means there's 16 matches, right? For Europe. 16 best of 3s
Yeah,
are going to be
16
played.
best of
Yes.
threes. Yeah,
For
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah,
round,
that's,
right?
That's for
16
both
16
groups. Yeah.
16 best of 3s for Europe. Yeah, for both groups together. Americas is another 16 players. So that's another 8 matches, right?
Yeah.
16 plus 8 is 24.
Yeah.
24. So there's 5 of those rounds, right? That's going to happen 5
But-
times, right?
No, it's not going to happen 5 times. It's only going to happen the first 3 times. Because once you get 3 losses or wins, you are out of. You either advance or are eliminated.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
they're
It'll
not-
reduce after the
Oh.
first.
Schedule. There's
Yeah,
a
so-
schedule.
Oh, there
Yeah,
is-
apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, it's going the opposite way, where NA plays all 3 weeks, and Asia plays all 3 weeks, instead of the way it used to be, where Asia was week 1,
Okay.
NA was week 2, and
Yeah, or that. Like I went the opposite extreme. So now we have
Yeah.
everything spread over every day or every week.
Wait, what?
So yeah, the first week is entirely dedicated to every single Swiss 1 and 2 Swiss round.
Right.
Uh-huh. And the next week 3 and 5, and then everyone else, the playoffs for each region is on different
Oh.
days.
Okay.
But
This
yeah.
kind of makes sense. So then Europe is going to be everything. Sorry, they're all going to be the same, except Europe is just going to be twice as long during the day.
which is
each
kind of how
day.
it's always been, anyways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
it's-
now it's like more pronounced because before it'd be like 6 best of 3s and 4 best of 3s. Now it's going to be like 8 best of
16
3s
best
and
of
4
3s.
best of 3s.
Oh yeah.
So wait, hold on.
How
If
the
so if there's a bunch of players that are no longer playing like after the third round because they've either been eliminated or they've advanced,
the stream is
That's
literally
still-
going to be running 24 hours a day.
yeah, that still means that there's almost 75 matches that have to be played in the first week and like 2 days.
Yes,
Um,
72 matches.
72 best of threes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they
So-
could. I mean,
I
they
mean, that's reasonable if there's also a stream and stuff covering
well,
things.
yeah. So here's the number one thing is that I think no matter what you do with the current system, you have to have additional streams, which may or not happen. We don't actually know. So I would say just basically guaranteed, we're not going to see all the games. You won't be able to go around and check a bunch of streams. You'd have to be stalking them on BattleNet to know what their performance is until we get the result and it's put up on stream. So that I think is a downside. But
Wait, does it say anywhere that we won't be covering all of the matches?
no,
Not just
but we just don't
more
know
the
if it's going
assumption
to
that
happen.
there are too many. Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't know if they're, because they pay the B stream. They would, I don't know if they paid the C stream. I mean,
do.
they got one.
They pay BCD.
Okay, so they paid for everyone. Are they going to do that anymore? I mean, we could have literally started this conversation with the biggest announcement that happened months ago.
Ooh. I mean, okay, actually, I'm doing the math on this. It'd be 8 best of threes for just Europe. I'm only even talking about Europe and not adding Americas in yet. But it'd be 8 best of threes per day for the first week. And I think that would get you through Swiss rounds 1 and 2. Which I think on its own, I could see them doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
The
It's
thing,
going to be long days when you add in Americas, which is going to be another
so here's
probably like 4.
well, but it's also going to be Asia too. Like it's literally
Asia
going
usually
to
gets
be,
covered by
Right. Australia.
a different crew of people.
Will it be anymore?
That's the question. They could actually do what they used to do, which is have different commentators for every region.
Mm.
That would, yeah. I feel like there's a strong chance that that's what's going to happen.
You kind of have
Is-
to, right?
Well, I think the other option is you literally have somebody cast 20 hours in a day, and that just like even we have some rights.
Well,
Steadfast, I thought you literally just never turned the stream off. Like I've seen your hours.
a lot of the time,
Exactly. This is like double that.
Steadfast, show me where in your contract it says that you have rights. Oh wait,
I mean, it's
Show me
called
your
a day rate.
contract.
That means
God.
24 hours.
funnily enough, it is often all the people that you guys don't see that are actually like far more having to be restricted to.
Yeah.
So a lot of the production people are like unionized, or they live in a country where they literally can't do stuff. So there's usually more restrictions on that part. Not that there seemed to be any for the previous stream hacks. I don't know what was happening there, but we don't know what the production's even going to be like. I mean, there's even a possibility with how much the scene has shrunk. Because again, we could have started this off by discussing the scene is shrinking and Blizzard hates us now. We don't know if we're going to be paid the same as last year. If they came to us and was like, sorry, we had to cut your rates in half, and like we're being truthful, we have to. We're going to be like, well, what are you going to do? So there's a possibility that these things are going to be attempted to be like officialized, but very loosey-goosey. You know what I mean? Like Rotterdam streaming with an ESL logo slapped on it. And then maybe some extra production quality, like assets he was given. But no observer, no production team, no sound engineer, all the things that we had last year. We just don't know. But with this, the way that things are going right now, I wouldn't be surprised that they just had like something like official, like this is the mainstream, but it's really not what it used to be. So in that way, I feel like opening it up to community streamers for BC and D streams would be a logical conclusion, since we're already kind of loosey-goosey on the professional side anyways.
So
and then
for,
we get everything covered.
for the next part of this talk show, we're going to be having a ZombieGrub is going to be showing us how to update our cover letters and resumes.
Exactly.
See,
What?
Twitch ad deals they've gone away for the most part. StarCraft scene is shrinking.
All of esports is going through what they're calling esports winter.
Ha!
Yeah. Well, luckily it's actually above 40 degrees outside where I am right now. The snow's starting to go away, so spring is coming.
67 Fahrenheit today.
I'm feeling really great about my decision to have gone full time. Like,
Steadfast.
What
Like,
an
4
idiot!
months ago,
Oh my
5 months
god.
ago.
I know. Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your guys' ideal broadcast length for, let's say, Europe plus Americas?
For what purpose? Viewership, casting quality.
If you had to like whatever you think like should be prioritized, what's your ends like?
I guess
That's
one
a
more
question
question.
that needs more parameters. Yeah.
Like, is it how long I am individually casting or how long the broadcast itself goes?
Let's say you wake up and you are in the body of Alex 007 and you are making the decision on how long you want to aim to make this broadcast. You're factoring in
Okay.
audience viewer retention, you're factoring in what's reasonable for casters to
So
like
commentator quality
long
just
and
is
all that
like
stuff?
not an issue. That's what I'm.
On the assumption that we can have like multiple
Wow.
crews or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, I'm just like like they'll pass the bar if we give them a 12-hour workday. It'll be fine.
We've done it before.
Exactly. No, I think that's actually a fairly obvious answer because we know at least some of the stuff behind the scenes. We know that one of the reasons they wanted to have such long days that they'd never really looked into changing the format was that it is how they meet their viewership goals.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say viewership is number one. And if viewership's number one, then it's like peak viewership times like average viewership, right, or whatever it is.
I'm just looking forward to the 16-hour days, and now we're officially sponsored by meth.
I mean, we are. It is sponsored by Monster, so it's not quite there, Steadfast, but at least we do have the energy drink.
Once it's legalized.
Although
Everyone knows that you have the stimulants. It goes coffee, Monster / Red Bull, and then it's right up to meth. Just
right up there.
Straight up there.
there we go.
Right over cocaine. Yeah. Sorry, Fear Dragon. Was there a point to your question?
wow. Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
I guess
I mean,
it was a pointless
You
question.
rephrase
No,
your
I get it.
questions,
I
but
get
make
it.
it
You're just like,
Thanks.
no, you're gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do we answer your question? You're like, yeah, thanks for your information, and then you just like move on.
No, I was mostly just curious what you guys' thoughts were on that. It seems like just general. I mean, you guys didn't actually give an answer. You just kind of said it was obvious. But
Viewership is the most
reason.
important, and then
as long as possible.
putting two people on, two paid individuals on for 16 hours
Okay, 16. Okay, so 16 hours.
is the goal.
All right. Yeah, I was mostly curious because in the scheduling of this, that would affect, for example, would it even make sense to get a B stream and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of more what I was getting at. Like, if their honest to God goal is just viewership hours, then yeah, they can maybe do some cost evaluation on like how much do talent cost? Could we just hire multiple groups of talent, like you were saying, for each region, and then just have like, instead of having 2 or 3 talent on for a day, we have like 6 talent on or something, and they're on 2-person rotations throughout the day, and just it's on for 16 hours for 6 days a week.
And we are seeing that a little bit. So like, if y'all remember, what was it? The most recent Home Store Cup back in like December, whatever it was. There were a lot of games that weren't covered because they didn't have you or Fear Dragon or ZombieGrub on the B stream. But I reached out and said, hey, I can do this, whatever. And I was told, no, we don't want to do that because it's far more valuable to have our viewers centered on one channel than it is put on 2 or 3 separate channels. It doesn't matter if it's the same number of viewers. For advertisers, having that one centralized viewer location is actually much more valuable. So, go ahead, Steadfast.
Well, I was just gonna say, and that makes a ton of sense if you look at the pigsty. Look at the pigsty that just happened. I didn't watch much of it. I didn't have a chance to, but when I saw it on the TL sidebar, I see Pig, who organized the tournament and put the prize pool up at 1,700 viewers, and Crank, who is the Korean streamer for it, was at 4,500 viewers. Like, first of all, I mean, that just, yeah, that kind of speaks for itself. But like, those viewers are probably going to all end up on Pig Stream. So it's the same concept with, I think, this, where you're just kind of splitting your viewership, and very few people are doubling.
Well, it does lead to the interesting question, though, right? Because we look at other esports and the rise of co-streaming. You know, look at what Valorant's doing or what Counter-Strike's doing or whatever, where they've been leaning hard into these ideas of these co-streams, where it's casters that aren't casting that day, or it's big streamers or whatever, and they are just kind of live reacting to the content. Now, I think it's maybe slightly less attractive than it was a year ago when these big esports companies were able to say, yeah, you know, look at this. This is pure viewership. You're seeing it's brand safe. You're seeing, you know, you got 45,000 more viewers in the example of like Tarek. Actually, he's probably more than that, like co-streaming a VCT event. And everyone's going to see it's additional viewership that we can kind of one-to-one add in. And I think brands are starting to wise up. That is not quite true. You don't quite have the lockdown on brand control that you do on a main broadcast, but it is still there. So it is interesting to see our scene kind of go the opposite way. If we're going to potentially concentrate on one stream, we're going to put everything there. We're not going to have Crank. Well, I mean, Crank's going to cast it, but we're not going to have, I don't know, what's a good example? We're not going to have Pig on days he's not casting. We're not going to have him co-stream it because we want to have it all there. I don't know. Maybe it's because we don't have individual streams that are big enough to make that worthwhile. I don't know. But it is interesting to see kind of maybe us going one way and then all the other big esports going the other.
Yeah, that's a very interesting conversation, the whole watch party stuff, because there were all the hesitations that you brought up, and it does seem like it's died down pretty heavily. And I personally feel like we are heading in the direction that once again tournament organizers will be like, no, this isn't worth it, especially if there's ever going to be a controversy where someone does something very not brand safe, and then the sponsors are called out for it, even though it wasn't on the mainstream. But you know, there's no denying that there are some esports that have heavily grown because of watch parties. So that's the other thing, is that, you know, certainly the idea of kind of having a communal feel at all times can be appealing. But yeah, StarCraft is missing it. And yeah, I don't know why either. Bigger streams don't really exist so much. And a lot of the biggest streams are also the biggest commentators who take that time to actually fly out and do the events. So they're not there to watch party anyways. But to hone it in again on the whole Swiss format conversation, if we did just open it all up, would that be better? Do they have sponsors they're still trying to appeal to for StarCraft 2?
I think per the announcement they have Air Force and Monster and like ESL Shop, but that's the Air Force and Monster are the branding, and I guess Blizzard is listed as a sponsor, but I assume that's just the license.
Yeah, exactly.
But they do have Monster and Air Force on all their branding, so I would assume that they are trying to hit metrics for them.
Yeah.
They must, right? Because in the past, when Blizzard was funding the prize pool, online broadcasts were very cost effective because you basically worried about production costs, talent, and then that's kind of it. Like, right? And then admin costs and stuff. Like, so there are some like extra costs and stuff, but like talent were getting paid less for online broadcasts. I don't know if production was getting paid less for online broadcasts and stuff because they still went to an office and everything for that. Admin, I don't know the situation exactly on that, but like, I think a lot of time they were using employees anyways. So let's even like remove that. But now if you add in prize pool and the fact that they're self-funding it, like it's still cost effective, but it's not as cost effective. Like they have to be thinking about ways to like properly monetize this, right? There's no way.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so weird that they are cutting down on the open bracket slots. I know we're jumping ahead of ourselves, but it is that kind of that same conversation.
Yeah, we'll definitely have that conversation.
It's a 1 hour rant for later.
Yeah, because I think we're all kind of dumbfounded by that one, but again, we'll save it for a little bit later. At the end of the day, we don't know what the production is. In my eyes, if I was Alex, right, and I needed to cut costs more than I needed to hit some viewership goal, I would do definitely like pay someone to do it like it's a casual tournament. Pay Wardy to do it like a Caster Civil War thing. And then I think that you would obviously save a lot of money, even if you paid Wardy if I like a substantial sum for what he did. It'd probably still be cheaper than like all the things they would have to do, which is actually what they did in the first Caster Civil War, and why he wasn't involved. He was behind the scenes doing all the work, and they paid him a big sum. And he said, I didn't get his actual words, like it wasn't worth it, but just I do wonder if that would be even more cost efficient than exactly what feardragon was saying. How you still had to hire the OB and the casters and the studios, the audio engineer and all that good stuff, the director. We don't really need the studio. I mean, as much as I love the people there for what is online broadcasts, I don't think I need a producer counting in my ear. I think I could literally do it myself and press the transition button and have decent enough graphics without the complicated. And I know I'm not saying that I would do as good of a job. I know how much goes into production. I'm not trying to say like production is super easy. Anyone could do it. But I think you could do a good enough job with some bare bones stuff that could be what we're looking at for the future. I can't imagine what it's going to look like to be such a professional production this year.
To be clear, we're not saying that, production is easy. We're saying we should get the money that would otherwise go to production. That's,
that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's not the greatest. We would love to have a dedicated, I'd love to have dedicated observers, plural, not making y'all cast or observe 14 hours a day. But he would do that for online days.
I mean, shout out to Steadfast, who observes everything when I run production. It's great.
There you go. Yeah.
Shout out to Beomulf, who runs a great ship of production.
Yeah. Do you pay
if you the quality we put into B stream is realistically it is passable A stream, and in some cases I would say your production specifically outstrips the A stream in some ways. Which is wild.
It's easy enough to put like on numbers, right? Let's just throw out a number and say you pay 6 people $6,000, all right, $32,000, and instead of doing that,
36.
you pay Beomulf $36,000. Instead of that, you pay Beomulf, $18,000.
And realistically, at least on the B stream, they pay me like $100 extra a day to do this. So, I'm not saying the negotiating table all that high.
They see some value, but
but like I was talking to Pig about this yesterday because he was not sure what was going to happen with Asia, and he was like, "Yeah, I think there's realistically a world where they just pay you or Wardy to run the production and have everything else happen."
Yeah.
Which I don't want it to be like that. It's much nicer, as I do B stream normally. I've had a chance to do some A stream stuff. It is so much nicer when I'm not running everything. When you just get to be the caster by itself, it does drastically improve the product that I personally am able to put out.
I think we can all agree that the casting quality, getting us to go from a 7 to a 10, it's just not a priority, especially for online broadcasting.
That's fair.
They're very fine with us being a 5. When's the last time you heard complaints about the casters do something for the online broadcast?
I mean, it just depends on how far in the Reddit grid you go.
Yeah.
When's
When's the last time you've heard complaints from a sane person about the quality of the casting?
That affects the hiring process. I mean,
it does. Yeah,
that's a whole nother conversation. But
isn't it great how all votes are equal?
I think it's
the guy who is on the street, fully nude, screaming about the voices in their head, and they're wearing tinfoil. That's their only covering, and it is not covering the important bits. Has the same value as someone who might have gone to an Ivy League university. I've always felt that's just the best. I always felt that was the best.
I mean, Steadfast, I tell you, as someone who goes to an Ivy League university, it's not that different, okay?
They just clothe themselves.
Well, the difference is you wait until a kegger or something to do the special outfit, the birthday suit.
Or until you're the head of a bank that decides to go bankrupt.
Anyways, before we start, insulting people and insulting democracy, which
there we go.
Fairland has been built on. Anyways, I think the TLDR of this conversation is that we don't really know what the production is going to be like. So we can't even begin to guess at what the organization is going to be like. And my expectation which I don't think is that pessimistic, but is something that is downsized, community-sized, and doesn't cover everything in that Swiss format. I don't think we're going to get all the games covered. Which I don't think is also that bad. I mean, the other thing that happens with the Swiss format is that, I don't know how to put this politely, but you do kind of like get the losers out of the way. Like, it's literally what you're doing. You're getting your winners out of your way and your losers out of the way. And if the losers are playing other losers, you could just focus on the winners. You're probably the fan favorites anyways. And
it does mean that every game matters, which I think is the biggest change.
Yes, that's a huge deal.
Although, if you're in the Liquipedia Discord, the house is burning down. They're losing their minds.
I
They
can't.
hate Swiss format. They said that they actually may just not put the matches on Liquipedia because they
saw
just
that.
don't want to do it.
Here's the thing. Here's my little rant, right? Because I saw HEP Alpha on Reddit, and he was like, "It's a shit format," and his only complaint is why it's shit. So I'm using your words if you're watching this. Was that it was hard to track in Liquipedia. He might have other reasons, but they weren't stated, so I don't know. But I'm like, I understand, like, they're volunteer, and to do this stuff as much as they've been doing, as long as they've been doing it, is freaking amazing. But is there any other argument? And also, Swiss has done a lot. I'm pretty sure Liquipedia, the entire website of Liquipedia, which now it spans like a dozen games, must have a way to input a Swiss system.
Every Counter-Strike major has Swiss.
There
Like
you
every
go.
round of
Trading
their
card
thing is a
game.
Swiss format.
Every trading card game competition does Swiss. She's Adelphia used to do Swiss, so I know that there's some Liquipedia pages in StarCraft 2 that have Swiss format enabled and things like that. Like, it's not done. Like,
Yeah, and I'm so confused as to how this is such a big issue that it would merit refusing to talk about any positives about it. It like, I understand that's what's most important to them, and so you're gonna focus on it, but it doesn't sound like that big of a deal. I'd happily let someone come on and be like, here's why it's specifically difficult for StarCraft, but it seems doable, and it seems worth it, I think, because at the end of this, I want to go ahead and just kind of tally up our positive and negatives and give, overall scoring. But go on, Beomulf.
So what they were saying is it's the automation that's hard. And it's not natively quite built into Liquipedia. They don't quite have the templates ready-made for it. So, like, when you're looking at a group and it'll like automatically rank who's above and who's below and has all the tiebreaker stuff built in. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that makes that automated, that makes that work properly. In fact, in general, Liquipedia has been doing a lot of automation work to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But with Swiss, to my understanding, and then like figuring out who's going to play who in the next round and all that, my understanding for Swiss is that automation is not there, and it's going to be a lot of pain to put that in. So for everything, you want to say all 16 matches have been played. Okay, now we're going to have to manually populate who's going to play for the next round. We're going to have to manually sort things.
Okay.
So that's my understanding of the complaint, that it takes out like all the automation work they've done for the last couple of years to make things actually easy to manage.
Some people in chat are having a direct experience with this, right? Do you guys know that Liquipedia can automate this stuff? So please answer that. And then my second point is that we don't need Liquipedia to be the predictor. Like, it's been cool, but it's also been something that we weren't even supposed to say on broadcast. Every time we looked at Liquipedia and it said it was red, like, hardcore red, you're out of the group.
Oh, yeah.
We were told, don't say that because of Liquipedia. You can say, oh, it doesn't look so good. Oh, they're probably out. We could say Liquipedia says this, but guys, Wikipedia's not the official source. But we could never just say they're out. They warned us against this, and not because they're dictators controlling us, it's because they have to do it in their system to really be official. So what Liquipedia can do, which it was at one point, is just reflect what the other website does, the website the admins use and no one knows about because how many casuals go to find the link? They go to Liquipedia. But that's fine. That is fine. If they have to wait for it to populate on the admin side and then post on Liquipedia, it does require them to be paying attention, but I still don't think it sounds like the worst thing in the world. I think definitely some people could do it.
And there's an internal spreadsheet that tracks all of that. Like when I do my production work for things like Katowice, I just get access to their internal scores or whatever spreadsheet that is live updating and putting people in brackets and things, and it pulls into my my setup. So
Mhm.
if they can get something like that, again, it's you got to write some more code. I don't know how Liquipedia works with, or I don't know how what is it, whatever the wiki backend they use. I don't know how that works with like pulling in data from Google Docs or I don't know.
All right.
But there is that resource available that you can just literally just kind of live pull in and take whatever ESL's doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I understand it's frustrating. It's new. It's going to change the way they do things, and they're already doing a lot of volunteering. But as someone put it in chat, I think they're absolutely correct. I don't think ease of Wikipedia update should be a factor in choosing a tournament format. I do think that's a pretty good way to put it.
Yeah. It'd be one thing if like especially considering the current state of things is like right now we have to assume, we don't know this for a fact. I'm just postulating. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but we have to assume that almost every decision that is made, like drastic decision, is probably in an effort to save money. We have to assume that there is a ton of stuff going on behind the scenes to try and reduce the cost of the budget.
It's more than that, though, right? Like it's reducing cost and also increasing value. So, like, how many times has ZombieGrub and feardragon? Like, how many times in the last year have we said, "Wow, the current DreamHack format for online is not great, and they're just games that don't matter." It needs to change in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's 2-tiered groups, this didn't occur to me, but it's awesome. This change had to happen. We had to change our format up in some way. I think Swiss is honestly the best way to do it, looking at it. So it's more than just saving money. Like, this massively improves the quality of our product.
Yeah. I think all of us agree on that point. You just literally get more quality games past the first round of where they're just seeded. So it's a little weird, but you get the winners versus the winners. You get the losers versus the losers. It matches out middling in the middle part. So even if they're not the best names, they end up delivering really fun games as opposed to being smacked down by Cyril on the day that we decide to broadcast them. And then they kind of stay in obscurity. And that also could be counteracted. It could be argued, well, when they do beat Cyril, then we don't get to see it. And that,
they do have the chance to beat Cyril. If they go 2-0
That's true.
and
They
Cyril
would
goes
never
2-0.
get a chance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which I think is fine. It's a different form of story building, I suppose, but it's nonetheless fine to say, like, well, this guy was a surprise winner of the Swiss group. He did go through this grueling all five, and he barely made it out. And let's see if he can do it here. I think the only real counter argument to this for me is the old how do people follow it? But I've already ranted about this. I'm going to be the one to start it. I think people didn't bother following the group stage in the last 3 years anyways.
No.
100%. Nobody did.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, but...
Sorry. No casuals did.
Yeah, it made sense when you looked at it. When you were like, what the hell is going on? What is going on here? Okay, let me try and actually figure this out. Oh, that's what's going on. But most people would just be like, what's going on? I don't know, StarCraft.
Yeah.
And they would just watch it. And then when they got to single elimination, that's when viewers come in anyways. It's higher stakes. It is easier to understand, but you're just, you can't have a single elimination tournament for the entire time. And it's got the best players. So I think it's going to be the same thing. I think people are going to be like, what's happening? I don't understand what's going on. Oh, well, it's good StarCraft. And in this case, it's hopefully very good StarCraft because there's fewer stomps.
And it's a pretty simple argument. They got to win 3 before they lose 3. Like, that is, without going into everything, that's really simple. That's a pretty easy UI you put on top. You just have 3 check marks on top and 3 X's below, and you fill them out as they go through, or whatever it is.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, again, this is not a new format. We are not breaking ground with this. You have plenty of examples to go to if you wanted to see how people properly communicated Swiss formats. And in much bigger tournaments, I imagine. I got to imagine those Smash tournaments have like a bajillion Swiss brackets going on, right? So I don't think it's that big of a problem. But anyone else?
Well, the only thing is that as StarCraft 2 fans, 13 years into the game, the concept of change is the scariest thing that you could ever say. So the idea that we're changing anything, even if it is empirically for the better, scares the living crap out of us. We're just like, oh my God, what is going to happen? Is somebody coming for my house? Where am I? I feel disoriented. I can't sleep at night. You know, like, but in all reality, I actually don't know that there are any downsides to it. Like you're talking about your plus minus, your like positives and negatives graph. I actually don't see that anything fits into the negatives, because the only real bad thing is maybe if the seeding in the first round is bad. But the whole point of Swiss is that it's supposed to all balance out over the course of 5 rounds.
There is like the one downside is that losses are a little more punishing than they used to be. You know, which is I think is an upside actually. It makes matches matter more. But players like Cyril or Raynor is probably a good example, who will occasionally lose a series or two in group stage and makes a decent run. If he loses a game or two, suddenly he is theoretically actually in a significant problem. Whereas before it's like, he lost a series, whatever, he's still going to go 5-1. I don't think that is likely. I think the cream is still going to rise to the top. In fact, it makes it better, right? Geralt, if he beats Showtime and Raynor, he's going to qualify it pretty highly. Unlike last year, where he still goes in the round 1 of the playoffs and gets knocked out first round. So, but I guess there's that like tiny little bit where it is maybe slightly more of a punishing format. Maybe.
Yeah. And Ragnaroket's pointing out how long it might take as well. Another downside.
Yeah. Is anyone really like, I know that there was the post from like Wikipedia editor, HJP Alpha and stuff. Like, is anyone really actually like advocating for that the format should not be that way because of Wikipedia making it hard to automate? Like, no sane person, not even the Wikipedia editors, surely could be saying we should not do Swiss format because it's hard to automate, right? No one actually holds that stance.
I don't want to put words in their mouth, but just as I said, the Reddit post had no other reason to hate Swiss.
Yeah. And I'm in their Discord, and it is just HJP Alpha talking about how Swiss is horrible because it's going to take him a week to write the scripts to automate it or whatever.
I don't want to throw stones, but that meant I've popped in the Wikipedia Discord a handful of times because I need things, and half of that Discord and half of his posts are just complaining. So,
oh my god, oof. The gloves are coming off. We finally.
He already actually hates my guts, so like I got nothing to lose on this one.
Oh my god, this is what talk shows are born from.
That StarCraft.
We needed drama again.
Boxing match.
Is it even drama?
Looking forward to
this guy who edits the StarCraft 2 Wikipedia. It's called Wikipedia, guys. Hates this other guy that casts StarCraft.
All right, so
and we just don't interact with each other. Like, it's fine.
Like esports boxing has been more of a thing. Like look at what Ludwig's doing. feardragon versus HGP Alpha, main stage before the grand finals of DreamHack Yonkoping.
That's so funny. That's
I ironically think that StarCraft 2 boxing would be pretty.
I mean, we already have chess boxing. Yeah,
there's some way to make it fun. I love this idea. To me, because I don't know him that well. I don't know how I just imagine that he's basically a dad of 1,000 billion people who's like always on his computer working on something really technical, and he's got like a cigarette in his mouth, and he's just like fucking fucking people messing up the computer. God damn it! And I sympathize. I'm not actually making fun. I sympathize. I feel like you would get very frustrated being that person.
Yeah. I will say I read that Reddit post that he made, and I just took it as not like him advocating that the format should change, which is why I was saying that. Like, I just read it as him venting about it and doing the kind of like fucking kind of thing, but like
under his breath.
But not because, at least the way I interpret it, because I feel like it would be a little bit out there to expect the format to change for that reason.
Right.
But I kind of just read it as just venting basically and be like, this really sucks for Wikipedia editors. I'm like, oh, that's fair. That does seem like it sucks.
It is fair. And sorry to HPGP Alpha. I didn't really want to HJ.
No, you don't have to apologize to him. We're not on good terms.
Well, I just, I didn't want to make it about. I was trying to like keep it kind of vague, but it just, anyways, it's understandable why it would be frustrating. I don't think anyone would legitimately be like, we can't do this because it's hard to Wikipediaize. But I think it is one step away from it's hard to track. And that's a very legitimate argument. So totally understand that point of view. I just think it was always hard to track. It's these stages are frankly for more the diehard people anyways. If you did just suddenly pop up on week 3 for the single elimination main bracket, you'd obviously lose all the days of streaming hours. But I would say that if you made it so that B streams, if like community streams at the first 2 weeks and then the last week was the professional side, I think people would actually be fine with that compromise. Obviously, it would be bad for some reasons, but anyways.
I mean, it would be.
It's us. We're the reasons.
It'd be really sad, but but it does actually go back to the conversation we were talking about, like how the production would work, where I think something like Swiss does maybe require a little more production quality to properly explain to people. Like, it's easy for me to say, X person has X win, but having even just some sort of graphic that says this person has this many wins, this many, like, this is how close they are to advancing or being eliminated, which is not too hard to make, but still is something that, you know, does require someone to write some code or to figure something out to put in there.
Mhm.
That is maybe an argument to not just rely on Wardy or me or someone else to run the broadcast, and actually, at least from some perspective, have that crew still there, because it is, without the relevant graphical assets, it is still maybe a little bit hard to explain.
Yeah.
I figured it out. All right, I thought about this. I know exactly what the graphics should be. The graphics should just be like a big thing, and instead of showing like, here's like the list of players and all that stuff, it'll literally just be like the players and their names, or like maybe their photos or something. And it'll just show that they have 3 lives, and it'll cross out a
exactly,
life
Yeah.
when they lose one. And then if they get a win, they get like a golden ticket or something. And it's just like, you literally just say, you're trying to get 3 golden tickets before you lose all your lives. That's all you have to say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or you just have, grayscaled out. Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. But that is something that is kind of hard to do on the fly if you're like editing Photoshop files or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is possible though. And with our production, you know, it might be a little clunkier, but definitely doable. I also think, you know, because we did talk about we would suggest things for the broadcast in the last 3 years, other than just like major format changes, and they still would never really come into effect. Like feardragon would often advise changing colors, slight changing in colors for different regions.
Oh, God.
and
Don't even get me started on that. Like, between that, I literally, like, okay, I'm not gonna throw out exact rates and stuff, but like, I'm not like an amazing software developer, but like, I'm a somewhat like average software developer in Silicon Valley. My time is actually worth a decent amount, and I was literally just saying I would be willing to put in like 80 to 100 hours of development time to just help build out better broadcasting tools. I offer this straight up like once every like 3 or 4 months for like a year and a half to 2 years, and they just never took it up. And I'm just like, I'm literally willing to do this for free because I just think it'd be cool to have a better broadcast. And like, it would infuriate me that they would not take me up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, very slow to change. Lots of like, well, we'll look into it next time. And then by the time they get around to changing something about next time, it's already too late. So then it was always like, well, the next time. And then it just was not worth talking to anymore.
Really sad they went to like yellow background for everything for Katowice this year instead of like having race colors and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It became very one tone, and I don't know. You talk about colors, that made me very sad.
Oh yeah. Well, I not to rag on them. I think the new I think Alex coming on board has helped already in some things. You know, like obviously the cards were very, very popular at Katowice.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to bring up that color thing because I also think that would be a benefit to actually dividing the regions with commentators. Like you would have people, I think, more attached to, because that's what happens in a lot of other esports that really do have like these big productions for every region, the LCS versus the LCK. You have people who are very attached to like the production group and the casters of that group. And it feels different. It doesn't feel like this like same tone because the casters go into North America on hour 7 of their broadcasts. So are also much more inclined to be a little goofy or just be a little tired. And then the games don't necessarily help because we'd be casting the stomp games. And yeah, I actually think it would be great for dividing it up for community attention, right? So they're like, well, I missed Europe, but hey, like this America one's going to be awesome because everyone's fresh, everyone's new. The graphics hopefully are different. And I am North America based. So this works out better for me. I think that would actually be kind of nice. And this is another thing. If it stays super production, the amount of on-the-fly changes is going to have to be absolutely minimal. Even if they have good intentions to change, it's going to be minimal. If it turns into more of like a community thing, I imagine changes could happen a lot faster. They'd still have to get some permission, I suppose, for some things, but it'd probably be in some ways cooler. I don't want to like harp on. I don't want to say that last year was bad and I never want to have it again. Let's just go full esports grassroots mode, guys. But there are also benefits. So
There's more upside than it initially appears. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
There's a really, we haven't even talked about this yet, but and I don't want to like jump the gun on it, but we've been talking about this for a while. Some really nice upsides of how they're like rearranging the regions. And of course, there are a lot of downsides of that. But this made me think of like, oh, like NA, Latin America. Okay, let's be real. Latin America has been fucking boring for so long because it's been like 2 players competing for the top. We finally had eggs actually like come up out of the woodwork. That was really cool.
Jam.
But the fact that it took 14 seasons for there to finally be a 3rd competitor in Latin America was like
Jam.
Sorry, 4th. Yeah, 4th competitor. Yeah, because Cham actually did win. Yeah, sorry, 4th competitor. Wow, that's amazing. But like we're actually gonna have interesting matches in North America now. Like we're gonna have like Scarlet playing Special maybe, which is a freaking classic. We're gonna have Trigger going up against Cham. We're gonna have lots of cool things, and this is just NA. And I'm not saying there's not downsides, but there's some really nice upsides in that sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, let's go ahead and segue. I think we've exhausted the Swiss format. Generally, we're all in favor. The negative doesn't outweigh the positive. I think we agree on that. So yeah, as you were saying, you're going to have consolidated regions, which are going to also increase the hopefully the skill level and the competition and the entertainment factor when we talk about these Swiss groups. So if you guys missed this is kind of the biggest news in terms of professional player retention. So we'll definitely talk about some of the downsides of this. Just preface this with saying it is downsizing. There's no 2 ways about it. All right, they're cutting off a lot of the regions that were basically never, and I know this sounds rude, but let's be kind of real. They were never going to have 5 people be hyper competitive against each other, right? There's always going to be like 1, maybe an upset happens, maybe a 3rd guy, but they're getting rid of anyone who would think I could be really good in 2 or 3 years. I think, but that was maybe more opinion. The fact is it is downsizing. So Europe stays Europe, 32 players. It's still the largest one. Asia, so that is China and Taiwan, for instance, going together, goes into 16 players, and Americas, which now is North America and what was Latin America. So now it's really North America, including Mexico. But I guess also like Brazil and
just South America.
Latin America.
There's
it's just a lot anyways. Now it all goes up into Americas as well. So this, as I said, cuts off a lot of the lower level players and makes it so now you would have like Oliveira, for instance, be probably number 1 to win Asia.
I do think
sorry,
like that part of it is, I think, super reasonable and stuff. Just like the bottom part of what you're showing right now of how many spots they have, I do think is a little bit brutal because now it's like they've merged the regions, but also on top of merging these regions, so there's just fewer like regional spots and stuff. It's also like Asia, like there's a good chance you just won't see Haas and Nice anymore at like events, and a lot of the other like Chinese or Taiwanese players is literally it's just gonna be Oliveira probably coming out because there's exactly 1 spot for the entire Asia region. And then America's also, you talk about like, oh, well, so, have like Scarlet and Neeb or Estrella and Scarlet or something. I was like, well, now you throw in Kelzer and Special in there, and it's like, shoot, there's almost no chance anyone except for like those 3 basically make it out of Americas. Like, I do think it's a little bit brutal. And Europe just has exactly the same numbers, so nothing's changed for them.
Do we know anything about how the global standings are going to be calculated, if it's anything different?
Alex tweeted about this. He apparently was saying that it is like for the first event at least, global standings is mostly just the EPT weekly. So the EPT weekly has increased importance. I think it sounds like for the first event, I don't know, like usually the partner events like a TSL or like an Alpha X or whatever like event and things, Home Story Cup will offer global points. So those I think would heavily trump a EPT weekly like aggregation of points and stuff. But besides that, like depending on what events happen between now and Jönköping, it sounds like it's gonna mostly be EPT weekly.
And I'm kind of for that, right? I know there's been a lot of people saying, or at least some people saying that they don't like that. It forces maybe players to play an EPT that they don't want to. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's 3 spots, and it adds a lot of value to this kind of weekly competition, which gives, I don't know, maybe I'm just saying that I'm biased as a caster and I like being able to cast good games, but anything that incentivizes players like Maru, for example, to play an EPT career or whatever the equivalency is, I think that's good for the scene, even if it is maybe unfortunate that a player ends up having to, play when they don't want to. And I guess the other thing, maybe the downside of it is it does reward players who are willing to screw their sleep schedule up. Right? If you're a European willing to play EPT and a EU, or a Korean willing to play in all 3 regions or something. Maybe there's some imbalance there that makes it not great, but at the very least, from the perspective of more good StarCraft and like keeping the scene vibrant week over week, I think it's a really good idea.
Hot take is I don't think it changes the math on things for Maru because I think there's still 6 spots for Korea or something like that, and the chances of Maru not making top 6.
That's fair.
Like I think like Serral, Maru, Raynor, and like granted, I know like Cyril's been playing in some of them here and there. Like Raynor actually does play in them like for fun because he's just doing random. But like I think like the very top players probably don't have their math changed that much.
Well,
Right.
Now that kind of like goes into a segue a little bit too. Now GSL is effectively a qualifier tournament.
It shouldn't be called GSL anymore.
Oh,
let's
that
be
is
real.
brutal, but
it's
you
not
are correct.
GSL anymore.
I think it kind of is fair to say that it's not GSL anymore. Like it's like I now fully view it as a qualifier and pretty much nothing else. Like, yeah.
For anyone who missed that announcement, by the way, who ends up watching this, GSL was cut the most. Just insanely cut. I mean, what was the percentage of prize pool down by? Like 70% or something?
Yeah.
The
entire GSL this year is less than
80%
one season of yeah.
Yeah. So Steadfast, right? It does kind of make it, I guess, a little more in line, like theoretically, with the whole EPT system. But obviously GSL was always really its own tournament. And it was actually quite cool that they were allowed to do that. I think anything else would have just gotten too complicated and probably would have pushed the Freako away anyways. But now it is incredibly low. Even if you are you are literally expected to win every GSL, which Maru theoretically is. He still would be making basically nothing. Like it's pretty absurd. So to look at it as a qualifying spot is exactly the way to do it. They're qualifying to get into these big DreamHack lands that still have a decent prize pool, $200,000. Sad, but that is the way it is.
And there was one promising thing that the official English speaking Africa TV rep who sometimes shows up on Reddit, I forget what his name is, mentioned that due to all the outcry on Reddit, on Team Liquid, on Twitter, on everything, everyone's saying like we want to crowdfund this. Supposedly Africa is looking into being able to crowdfund maybe season 2, maybe season 3. But what they said was they want to make sure that if they do some sort of crowdfunding, they have something that they can give back to the community, whether that is player signed items or like physical thing. So it's not just a donation setup, which I think that's kind of short-sighted. People just want this tournament to happen.
Yeah.
Like look at the Korean Star League that's happening every Thursday, maybe Friday soon. Their Patreon's like $4,000 or $3,500 a month.
Yeah, did you see the Patreon number? Back. Like not the money, but the number of patrons?
152.
Oh, now it must be much bigger. But I remember looking back when it was still at like $2,000, and I swear it was like 12 patrons. So I was like, one person.
The KSL? KSL one?
KSL,
There are, as far as I'm aware, there's 2 people who are putting in $1,000.
There you go. You go. Yeah.
Like $1,000 each, I mean.
Sure. Yeah. That's what I thought you meant. Yeah. So anyways, we know that was a possibility. I mean, every Twitch streamer out there is hoping for a whale, right? But for esports, that's also literally how it's been. I mean, you're talking
You're not
about.
supposed to call them that, zombie.
Sorry. But you're talking
Here was
about.
right movie,
Brendan
though.
Fraser got an Oscar for this, CG. Come on.
Yeah, he did. Should be more respectful. Anyways, that is esports. Esports is still, so much of it is run by people who just have an insane passion for it and end up also having a lot of money. So anyways, I've always felt that GSL made no effort to reach those people at all. I mean, you could have given a Korean website link to Hot 6 with, like an Africa TV like code or whatever, referral link, and it's in Korean, but it ships internationally, but Hot 6 still knows that someone's buying it. And I guarantee you people would have bought the shit out of that. The amount of posts over the last decade of, I can't find Hot 6 anywhere, where is it? Has been insane. And
How
they
many
never
years-
facilitated that. They never made it easy. And I feel like it really could have been done.
Like how many, or even just buying like the GSL jackets they have or anything else.
Oh
Meanwhile,
my god.
Yeah, I would get a team blazer for sure.
I would have
100%.
bought every season of those jackets.
God. Oh
And, like-
man, I would have 2 closets full of them.
Meanwhile, GSL goes and they like give food away to their audience every single time. It's like, and there was actually someone in that like long Reddit thread who was talking about how he was an importer to Korea, right? So he works with international brands to bring them into Korea, and he reached out to probably Gom and also Afrika saying, "Look, I have these connections. Let's get you some international sponsors because realistically, your audience is in the West, and they never followed up with them." So
Yeah. It's not really surprising though. I mean,
yeah.
not that I'm a professional when it comes to Korean work dynamics and politics, but I've heard things. And, well, rather infamously, I suppose, Korea is having some problems with the way they conduct business. We could leave it at that. Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and I'm glad that they are now open to it, that they aren't stubbornly refusing to do it. But I am worried about how, because of their history, I worry this is going to be someone saying, well, we're really going to look into it.
Yeah,
And they do, but they look at literally well, does LG want to sponsor us again? Wait, that's Korean. What's an American company? Who does Ford want to sponsor us again? Coca-Cola want to sponsor us again? Actually, they did sponsor them.
Apparently, back when this guy was this importer, Coke was one of the brands I think he mentioned in his Reddit post. He was like, "Yeah,
there you go.
I offered to hook him up with Coke," and they just never followed up.
Yeah, which is crazy because Coca-Cola definitely has a stake in Korea. Ford is a terrible example because Ford's a car company and they have car companies in Korea. But still, the point is, I think they're going to reach out to some super huge company that's going to be just we don't know. Who? And I'm confused. What are you? And they're going to be like, well, we tried. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Very scared that's going to be the case.
Well, they're more looking at. They said they were looking into crowdfunding, not international sponsors.
Yeah, I guess just
Okay.
generally getting more money
Yeah.
is what I was going with that.
Oh, okay.
So as far as getting crowdfunding going, I guess the example there would be well, we looked into Patreon, but they took 4%. So
No. ZombieGrub, you're not thinking like a corporation.
Okay.
Right? You're not thinking
All
like
right.
a company. I'm in touch. Now the companies think about crowdfunding, okay?
Okay.
And the solution is NFTs. They're gonna be
Oh
minting
my God.
NFTs
No.
left and right, baby.
Oh my God! Remember how
I mean,
O Gaming was
I-
a respectable company in 2016?
I want someone to just clip this because when I get to say I called it, I want this to be on the record that I called it. That this is going to be the thought. This is going to be their thought process, not my thought process. I think it's going to be their thought process.
The thing is, feardragon, remember the Blizzard community license got updated, I think, right around this time last year, and now you cannot be sponsored by any company selling crypto, NFTs, or anything in that nature. So that one, at least that one's kind of kneecapped before it can
Not
happen.
to put anyone on
Don't
blast.
tell anyone
but
about Coinbase.
Well, that's why I think that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why Coinbase was left
No.
after that year.
Coinbase had
No,
to have
that's-
left because they were in
that's
super
not-
financial trouble.
Yeah.
True.
That's not the reason. Yeah. But also, not to throw anyone else on blast, but wasn't Wordy sponsor or didn't Wordy have some a StarCraft related crypto or
Oh,
StarCraft
yeah.
inspired crypto?
People were
person?
doing Rally.io stuff.
There was that also. They went out of business. So
I know
they're
what you're talking
gone.
I
about.
think it
Morty
was
was
Terra.
sponsored by to do those tournaments. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
They literally named a lot of things after StarCraft because they just happened to be StarCraft fans.
Right.
Well, I mean, I just had a company reach out to me wanting to run like $8,000 of tournaments, but the payout would be in USDC. So literally like a crypto tournament. But
see.
USDC is a stable coin.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, it's not.
Well, it is a
not anymore.
stable coin.
That would also be very
Silicon
disappointing.
Valley Bank would disagree that it's a stable coin.
I
Wait,
think,
hold on.
orbital
Okay.
coin, there we go.
While I don't disagree with the overall point there, Dave, I feel like saying that referencing a bank, like a financial institution that went out of business, is not a good reference to why crypto is bad. That's a reference to why financial systems are screwed up.
Because a traditionally stable coin was then valued at like a percentage of what, like something that was meant to be an unmoving
It depegged
value
pretty
in
hard.
crypto,
Yeah.
then took a dive. Like it went down. Like that's why they went down. Is that not the case?
No, well, it was more there was a run on the bank because they had a bunch of liquidity issues and
It also wasn't Silicon Valley Bank, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're not entirely wrong on that.
crypto talk.
just
It's my
partially
favorite. We should
across
talk
the
about
board.
Pokemon.
Yeah. Anyway, so Swiss format.
we got past that one. Where are we at? Where are we
Yeah,
at
we're
in the
talking
doc?
about GSL trying to crowdfund because it is effectively a qualifier.
Yeah.
Bringing that back. And Steadfast's absolutely right. It is a qualifier at this point. Unfortunately, when I brought up that people are going to be, they're cutting off people who aren't really going to be top tier pros anytime soon. That's the nicest way I can put it. They're still supporting some of the ones who are kind of close to it, only in those regionals. So you guys were totally right to bring up the fact that basically the LAN, which is still the most prestigious, it's the most fun, it's really very invigorating, re-energizing for a lot of people, professionals, fans, the casters. It's very unlikely they're going to make it that far. So I think that is a huge issue for Asia in particular. As feardragon
Although-
said, you don't have Haas, but then you also don't have Probe and Nice.
Can-
Or Nice.
Can I go ahead, Beowulf, actually?
I was gonna say though, ZombieGrub, we talked about this kind of cutting the knees off out from under people who might be good in a couple years, but outside of Trigger in an A, who has somewhat of a chance to qualify, and I think with this team behind him, he is at least going to go to the open brackets. Is there really anyone left in StarCraft that has that potential? We talked about Percival. Percival showed up to Katowice 1 year and didn't do anything. But
Yeah.
it sucks, and maybe Stormgate or Gates of Pyre or some upcoming other RTS injects new life. But do we have anyone that has that 2 or 3 year runway of being really, really good? I don't know. Like I don't know that it really does all that much outside of, okay, Australia doesn't have a slot anymore, but
Well,
be
yes.
real. They weren't doing anything with that slot.
No, overall,
Mhm.
that is the argument.
Mio Micah is the only one that comes to mind.
Yeah,
for
Mio
that.
Micah was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's
yeah, fair
very
enough.
unlikely to make it now. Vindicta is another one. But his results, he's actually went full time. I think like 3 years ago.
He's been flatlined.
He,
Yeah.
He's like, I think even if you ask him, even though he is a pro player, like I think even if you asked him, I think he basically would say he prioritizes content creation, not
Yeah.
like professional play and stuff.
Which is
I
just the
I
play.
actually think more of a bunch of like the mid-level European players that
Yeah.
have like that potential to shoot up and things like that. And I do think in North America specifically, just because NANA player can beat NANA player, I think there are some that I could see pull off some like big upsets now that one of the top 3 of like Neeb is not there. I think Neeb now retiring, depending on whether or not he feels like, what the hell, I'll still just play a bit just for fun. If he doesn't decide that, then I can see Scarlet and Estrella not being able to hold off, say like Nina when she gets on a hot streak, or Disc or something if he gets on a hot streak or something. Like I do think there is some upset potential in NA.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Scarlet and Estrella though now. Now it's Scarlet,
It's Trigger.
Estrella,
And
Kellizer,
Special.
Special.
Special
And-
and Kelzer, yeah.
And Cham. And Cham. who-
Cham.
Cham is now officially
I
not
think-
full time anymore though. Is he?
I
is he
also
not? Okay.
I also put Cham more at, like the Disc or like
Yeah,
Nina and that kind of
yeah.
level and stuff. I don't put I love Cham, but I don't consider him to be a favorite to win the event or anything like that.
To be fair, he did beat both Scarlet and Harstom, who
Yeah.
both
He did a
looked
really good
Yeah,
job.
incredibly
knocked
good.
him out of
Yeah.
Katowice.
He knocked them both out of Kato. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But this is
And he beat Ryung too. He 2-1 Ryung.
Well, Ryung's
And that was a
TVs.
Ryung whose TVZ was looking better than it has for quite a while. It's
Well-
still not good, but it was looking better than it had.
Yeah. Anyways, I think you could find a lot of arguments.
Wait.
No, you can't. You could find a few arguments favoring these potential up and comers.
The only thing I will say, two things I'll say. One is that so if you think about compared to the previous systems, right? The number of slots available for the offline event, it used to be one for Taiwan, one for China, one for Oceania.
Mhm.
That has been merged down into one. So basically those regions as a whole have one slot, whereas they used to effectively between all of them have 3.
Yeah.
Americas had 2 and Latin America had 1. Was used to be 3 between them. Now that's been merged down to 2. So each of these regions have lost some of their slots. And basically that's a total of 3 lost slots that we're talking about. Those slots effectively are what created the openings for the global standings changes. That is, I think, one interesting thing to talk about. Not so much, is there going to be like any upcoming players and stuff, but what is the addition of the global standings, which I think is a interesting and cool addition and create more incentive to play EPT weekly and things like that, create alternative ways for people to qualify. Do we find that is going to be alongside the merging of all these different regions and stuff that should ideally have also made them more competitive? Was removing slots from these regions overall and putting them into the global standings like the best decision? Do you guys think that was a good decision? Do you like that, dislike it?
I like it from the perspective of making EPT cups matter more, but I agree with what Tasad is saying in chat, right? Where American NA players, they don't get points in EPT cups. Rest of Asia, OCE, whatever, they don't get points in EPT cups.
Yeah, it's going to
the
be
Europeans
Europeans
and
and Koreans.
It's 3 total slots that are going to Korea that already get 6 slots, and EU that already maybe someone like Special who is functionally Korean and he's living there. Maybe he gets enough points to squeak in, but it effectively means that 15 of the 18 are going to be 15 of the 18 fights are going to be Korean, European, or Korean or European.
Well, I just want to say it's about damn time that we finally, the NA region gets what's coming to it and has even more players from EU and Korea invading the NA weekly.
Let's go!
I can't think of a
It
time
was
in history where
already
that's been a problem,
so
Dave.
besieged. Now it is so much worse.
Well,
It
actually,
is going to be so much worse.
you know what is interesting, and this is something that ZG brought up a little bit on her stream yesterday, is the fact that, region locking is no longer a thing, really. So theoretically, someone could go and live, like a North American player can go live in Europe and qualify through Europe.
It hasn't been for a long time.
Yeah, for like the last 2 years, maybe.
Okay. It tilts me how much how many misconceptions there are around like the region locking rules over the past like decade. Region locking has been relaxing in a lot of ways for like the past 8 or 9 years. Because that's the reason why players like Hydra and like, Polt and all these other like different players would come to America and be able to play. You do need like a visa or something, or you need to be like a permanent or like some kind of resident to some degree, but like you have for a very long time just been able to get some kind of visa to live in a country for a while,
but that is
and just
region
play
locking.
there. Huh?
Like you have to be a full-time resident of that country to play there. That is region locking.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is where it gets a little bit weird in the sense that yes, visas are not always super easy to acquire and everything, but to move to some of the regions that like people talk about, if you like, let's be real, if you really want to go play in one of the Oceania regions, I'm pretty sure you could find or a country that you could go to. If you really wanted to, you could live there.
Yeah.
And like play in that. And I mean, we also have all the instances of bunch of the like UK players and stuff who are just like, I have a passport for like New Zealand or something.
You don't really need a visa.
Yeah, you used to, but you don't anymore. Yeah.
I think
maybe, but like the the joke is kind of like Polt was never
Well,
in NA anyways.
I'm thinking like circa, what was it, 2015-ish when they like really locked it down?
Well,
I think you did at that point need a visa and like full-time residency or something.
There was a long
Yeah,
period of time where players would literally come to NA for like
Yeah.
2 weeks,
To play the
take
matches.
all the prize money,
Yeah.
To fulfill
absolutely
the requirement.
destroy the
Mhm.
NA scene,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then leave. And people were like, I don't see a problem with that. What's the problem? NA players should just get good. And it's like, well, they can't, because all of the prize money that's supposed to go to North American players is being cherry picked by the South Koreans.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that like I guess it's such a shame that one of the outcomes of like when we had really strict region locking was players not moving to the not moving to the weaker regions and practicing there and playing there and actually like improving the scene, because you
Yeah.
see this happen in on other esports. Like for example in Dota they have there's a Latin American region and the North American whatever, and for NA in particular right now, because it's not a good region, but there are some European teams that have just moved over there and they're living there like year round because they know they're going to qualify easier. But by doing so, they're massively increasing the value of practice. They're massively increasing the quality of the ladder. And so hopefully, years down the line, that does mean that NA is going to get better. Maybe. But we never saw that happen.
Yeah. It wasn't landlocked enough.
Yeah.
It's the reason Europe did so well. Is that the Koreans actually were forced to play on Europe. But not to go too historical context. I doubt I think this all arose from the question of like someone could move to play in a bigger. Is that what I was?
Yeah,
Like,
potentially. Be
yeah,
interesting to
Specifically,
see
the
if that was.
Koreans, right, would be benefiting a lot
Gotcha.
from that.
Okay, the
Yeah.
Koreans. Yes, but what? Yeah, what are the? I mean,
But
Obviously,
is
there's
there
a-
enough now? Is
there's
there enough
also-
incentive?
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah.
also the question of like, do they actually want to?
yeah, I feel like that's a very much like a sunk cost thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like I've devoted 10 years to StarCraft, my life to StarCraft too. Let's go ahead and
it's
dedicate another one to kind of like a fairly useless endeavor.
well, and it's not just that. Like it's one thing if you're going to North America and I don't know, you're the 6th best Korean and you move to NA and you're like, I'm gonna win $200,000 this year because of that, versus moving to NA and being like, I'm gonna win $40,000
Right.
because of this. That's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
pretty gigantic difference.
Especially considering all what they have set up at home, not just leaving their home country and their family, and not speaking the language. But then, in Korea, if they already have their payment for their house, they're
Jeez,
paying
yeah,
like
yeah.
$600 a month because that's the way their system works. Then they have to take all that money out and bring it to America to start paying, $1,400 if they want to live in near Storm, because it's actually like really close to me. And that's just like I can guarantee it doesn't make any sense for any of the Koreans. I can pretty much guarantee that. Especially because I think that they could see a better content market if they just stayed in Korea. That's what Brood War did. It's crazy cool how you can just be like, come up from Busan and we'll get Korean barbecue and talk on stream. Like there's more things that StarCraft 2 could be doing in that sense for Korea. And when Stormgate comes out, it's way better to be there still practicing and preparing for that than being over in North America with a bunch of North American tryhards and being like 2010 StarCraft 2 again.
What
Being
if
like,
the
I
beta
should've
servers are
stayed.
only in America?
Well, that would be a good reason to move then, I think, actually. That would be
Although,
a gamble, but maybe a better gamble.
I think it'd probably be better to take the latency loss and go for all
Especially
the
with
advantages.
Well, or
rollback
that.
and microservers and all the modern stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a realistic option, I think is what we all kind of agree on. It's there. It would be interesting to see if someone did it, but the only person I could think of is someone who just really thought they were this close, like maybe like if Bunny thinks it's a better chance, I guess. I can't. No.
To me, actually, the better example would be someone who feels like they could basically do what Pult did and go for school, study in America.
Oh,
if they
sure.
felt like they wanted transition, basically. Like,
Sure.
hey,
Sure.
transitionary year, I'm gonna go stomp on a bunch of NA kids and pay for some of my college education.
That's actually a good point. That would not be a bad plan. This is not particularly important to the talk show, but honestly, if they have, because a lot of the top players probably have a lot of cash in the bank because of the key money system, but because probably a lot of them stayed at home for a while. they get paid in these huge lump sums, unless they're buying their parents' cars, which a couple of them did. They could be like $40,000 to attend American University, get that skill.
No, go to a Canadian university. It's a lot cheaper.
There you go, Canadian University, get that skill, get that education, learn the language, and continue making money on the side because I'm going to dominate these North American kids. That's a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
I'd do
And
that.
we know, you're going to have one LAN in NA at the very least. It's going to be pretty hype. I mean, look at how good Atlanta was this past year.
I mean, Parting already does that on the ladder.
Yeah,
to the point that he made so many accounts and took so much MMR aggregate that he actually lowered the aggregate MMR and the average MMR of the server by like 400 to 500. Like he actually deflated the MMR of NA by a notable amount. So I mean, Parting's already half done that. He may as well just move here.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so again, not particularly important because I don't think it's going to happen. I think at the end of the day, the Koreans are much better off doing stuff in Korea. And looking at the GSL season as a qualifier, which really 6 players from there is 33% of like they're good players anyway.
I was really surprised to see GSL maintain 6 slots on invites with how heavily reduced it's going to be, right? Where it is only going to be, top 4 even online for their tournament, and the prize pool being decreased. I would have expected to see more slots in the float, but I guess you do have the prestige of GSL, and you do want to make sure you have those Koreans and offline events because it drives a lot of viewership. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, unless anyone has anything else to say about the region slots for LAN, I did want to kind of summarize this by saying, in general, right, it is a downsizing. It is a looking at what we can do to make right now really good. So, earlier on, I saw someone in chat say like, less prize pool, less players, less prize pool, less players, less prize pool, less players, which isn't necessarily wrong. I mean, it's very easy to see the snowball going downhill, but my argument and why I liked this system when it was brought to us, even though it is sticking over a bunch of these up and coming players, there's really not a lot of room for that, is that they're doing what they're best at. They are producing the highest quality StarCraft 2 content with a high value production that gets people entertained. And I think at the end of the day, that should be their goal when they only have a certain budget to work for. They should make sure whatever they do gets people excited. And if people are excited because of that, then hopefully they do more grassroots stuff. Because that's really what's going to build a community and an ecosystem. To expect ESL to continue pumping out money to, I'm sorry, Australia, you're going to be the example again, to Australia, even though there's been very little development in that country, at this point in time, it's unrealistic. But if Ozcraft continues to do its thing and gets 2 Ozcrafts and then 3 Ozcrafts, and then there's big demand for an Australian tournament, suddenly people are like, let's do it here. That would be really cool. Let's do something like a Home Story Cup. Suddenly that happens in Australia. But I just don't think you can be like, well, we're going to just keep on throwing money at these things because it's been the way we've been doing it. It's fair. And we know that there's a lot of, starry-eyed, bushy-tailed youngsters who think that they could maybe pro game. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I do also think it's worth mentioning that in most traditional sports and stuff, you don't actually set up a lot of the events and things where there is just happens to be the most skilled players. The events are where the audiences and like the fans and stuff are. I think that's actually a lot of the reason why America was a big hub for a lot of esports stuff and still is, even though it doesn't usually churn out the best players and things like that. So I think I love the idea of having the local LAN events like Ozcraft and all that other stuff. But I also think like, if the fans are like, this is going back to what you were saying, ZombieGrub, like, if the fans can show like that there is interest and there is like hype around that, I think players will come in for it.
Yeah.
It's about like actually showing that there's an incentive to run an event there, not just that there are good players there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and that's where it goes back to excitement for me. The last year has been encouraging because of the excitement from the community, the amount of posts asking to produce bar crafts and meetups and excitement and clips and photos and all that stuff, right? Valencia was depressing because of a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest depressing things was that there was really nothing happening in the community for it. There was the post sticky on the top of Reddit, and then I feel like that was it. There's nothing else. Atlanta happens. Again, people meeting up, people posting on Reddit and Team Liquid like, hey, are you going? Yeah, I'm going. Let's meet up. Let's be friends. Taking pictures of how insane the crowd is, getting really hyped, actually posting clips, commenting to us on Twitter. That's what needs to happen. And that's not going to be something that ESL can help with by, again, propping up very small communities. I think for them right now, they do have to just be like, best quality product possible, make people excited, and hope that they do a lot of stuff.
Can I transition this into the number of offline or open bracket slots at the events and stuff as a transitionary point?
Okay.
This ties in. Sorry, Beomulf, get your thought in, because this is I got like a 1.5 hour rant. All right.
Okay, I was gonna say the one thing about you talk about getting stuff on Reddit. It's almost like it was a net positive that there were no casters on site at Atlanta, and I bear with me in that there was Pig, there was me, there was Steadfast, there was there were a bunch of content creators that would normally be casting the event in some capacity, and we were all just there doing other things. Like Pig had his massive meetups every night. That I'm not saying that's a good thing, and I'm not saying that we should not have casters on site, but it was like the unanticipated, like, silver lining maybe of having a bunch of content creators in StarCraft that were not actually working the event like they would normally do. That I think probably was a bigger driver. And I'm not giving myself a lot of credit here. A lot of credit goes to Pig, you know. But I think that was maybe at least a little bit of a driver on why we started to see all that, because you did have people like Pig and Steadfast and Neuro actively pushing a bunch of content up about the event, and then that starts to snowball.
I don't want to disagree because I
okay.
didn't watch the content that was put out from them. But I will say that all of the examples I gave, I don't recall any of them referring to you guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is things like Pig running his meetups, okay?
Uh-huh, yeah.
And I probably shouldn't lump myself into this, actually. Pig running his meetups. He had 50, 100 people doing there. He had lots of this engagement.
Yeah.
Doing stuff like that led to posts on Reddit. Look at this look at everyone here from the Pig meetup, right? And it starts that snowball of people starting to post more content around it.
Yeah. I do think having a community figure with a strong following who is organizing stuff is just that is good.
Yeah.
Definitely can't argue against it. Having someone who just organizes stuff but who's not a particularly famous person is also very good. And that has been sorely lacking from a lot of online or offline events for years. Like very few people sit next to each other 4 in a row and then decide to go for cheerfuls. Because, hey, we like StarCraft, you like StarCraft, let's do something fun. They just watch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that is definitely a good point. We need drivers basically at these tournaments, which community figures can often be.
I will also just say that I think historically, even like pre-COVID era and all that stuff, you look at like esport events and stuff in 2019, 2018, 2017 and stuff. There are more streamers and personalities and content creators that are not pro players or commentators that attend the NA events than European events. I think it's mostly just because there are more that are closer or find NA more approachable and stuff, but like we just straight up have more people that are there to help rally community members and things like that together at the NA events than Europe. So I've always greatly enjoyed NA events, partially because a bit more because of that whenever I was attending, not like working the event.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that does, okay, any more comments on the regionals? Okay. So
Sorry, Australia.
Yeah,
give North America
Sorry.
4 spots.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, also, it is just obvious that Europe is where a lot more of the up-and-coming talent is, the viewership is, even though it's not actually mostly Europeans, it's mostly American viewership. The point is European hours crossover, so it's usually the highest viewership. and it just has the most attention. Also, I think the most accessibility, right? Because they're not as landlocked as America. Someone can't go to California to live in New York, but plenty of people go to Germany if they live in France. So that's why they have all the players. I don't think I've seen anyone be like, well, Europe isn't hot shit. Why do they get stuff? But just in case there's someone out there, that's where they have the most. Anyways, after that, we can talk about the amount of open signups, which feardragon will apparently rant for about an hour and a half. I'm all for that. But just to...
But only, I have to cut that early to an hour and a half instead of like 3 or 4 hours because my food, I think, is arriving soon.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And it'll get cold eventually. So, so this is a very complex thing, and like that it's like a multi-stage thing that...
Summarize, like what are you talking about? So the
Yeah,
remaining
I've
32
just...
slots.
Yeah.
Okay. The really quick debrief before I go on the whole thing is that I'm going to be pulling in eventually parts from a lot of the things we talked about, including how the EPT points work and systems to the regionals and all that stuff. It's all going to tie into this eventually. But the TLDR is that in this announcement, which I feel like they didn't really... I think it has a typo or something because they don't really make it clear. The number of open bracket sign-up spots for DreamHack, Jönköping, and Atlanta is going down from 64 to 32 spots. So it's having the number of players who can sign up for the open bracket. And that means that the total number of players for the events go from 80 to 48. So it's like that's also like close to half as well. So what that basically means is that there's a lot fewer spots for players to actually sign up and play if you just want to show up for the event. If you don't qualify through your regional to get full flight and everything paid for, you have to go to the event and sign up and like try to get in. The way that they prioritize the signups is by EPT points. This is where things get really weird because that basically means that there's this really strange system now where you're almost qualifying to be able to play into the event through your EPT points now. It's almost like a little mini Katowice in a sense with slightly more players because even the lowest attending event, the lowest sign-up event that I'm aware of that we've ever had for Premier, like DreamHack or anything, which was DreamHack Valencia, which was I think still during COVID, we had 6 or 7 like major players canceling out on their attendance and stuff between like, I forget if it was Rainer or Cyril. Rainer was one and Cyril was a different, like for Atlanta.
Cyril was
something.
Valencia.
Yeah, okay. So it was Cyril. You had like Oliveira and like a few others basically not able to like attend or something. So even with all of that, we still had 55 players for that event, which is still more than the number of like open sign-up spots and stuff that we have available. So and like the other example is DreamHack Atlanta had 80 completely filled up, and there was also a wait list of like over 10 or 15 players or something, as far as I'm aware. I think it went to like 90 something, or like 100 something. I forget. It's been a while now. But what that means is, if you know that there's going to pretty much guaranteed be this number of players who are going to sign up and try and attend the event, especially Atlanta, I think, especially the NA event, which tends to have more signups in general, that basically means you have to have EPT points in order to be able to play. And there's going to be a weirdness around the scheduling of that as well, of when do you book your flights, because a lot of the EPT points are going to be through like potentially EPT weeklies, and like, can you earn enough to overtake someone who's already booked their flight and now boot them out of the event and stuff? I'm looking forward to seeing how the weirdness of that stuff works. But even beyond that, this is the reason why it's becoming a very long rant. Go back to how many regional spots there are. There are 32 open bracket sign-up spots. Sure, 16 of those players are just going to be seeded into the actual event and stuff. Great. There are fewer or more people in the regionals than there are open bracket signups left, basically. Even after you remove the people who got the direct seeds. That basically means, depending on exactly how many EPT points are given, if you don't qualify for your regional, there is almost zero chance, I think, that you will be able to play in the actual offline event. Like, you can't miss qualifying for the regional anymore. And so that also adds in some other fun stuff. What happens if a player has like their best friend's wedding or something, and they just can't make this one event, or they miss the qualifier weekend or something. Like, does that cascade? And now I can't play in the actual event. So now I'm behind in EPT points. So even then, if I do okay-ish but not win the next regional, do I not have enough EPT points to compete with people who played in 2 of them? There's all kinds of weird things in my mind that can start arising from this. Like I think there's a lot of really big repercussions from the number of the reduction in the number of sign-up spots basically for these events. And this wasn't a big deal before because the cutoff before was like Master League player that signed up for the event and was just kind of there to have fun and get stomped on by Cyril or something. Now it's like, if you look at the like Aligulac ratings or things like that, we're talking about players like Goblin. We're talking about players like Nightmare and like players that we consider pro players that are going to be affected by this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my short rant. Sorry.
Yeah, so kind of in summary, the amount of slots that are available don't cover the amount of people who would be going. Like, kind of like bare bones.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention everyone who would have a fun time going with their friends and just kind of dicking around in open land.
Well, the funny thing is that, like, I can't really think of a reason why they would do this.
I
that
really
makes
can't.
actual
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
like, because
I mean,
it's so look at Atlanta. Like, there was so many players trying to get in after they had already, like, after the signups had already happened. Like, multiple players that were like, hey, like, you know, X person, can you give up your spot at the tournament because I am trying to compete here and I'm trying to get in? Like, because I think I signed up super early, so I got one of those spots. But there was like players like, I think Mixu was looking for a spot up until like very recently. He did get in, but like there was some like very solid players that you would consider to be, they were almost a lock to make it into the money, and they had to like negotiate with some of the people who had signed up early. And this is back when there was many more spots. So I really can't get it through my very thick head why this would happen.
I think it was like 120 signups for Atlanta for 64 slots, something like that. I mean, I guess there's maybe the one argument where it's, well, we don't want to have another Valencia again where there are empty signup slots and that's bad optics. Well, if that's going to be the case, have 2 separate tournament sizes. Like, if that is your big problem, make it, I don't know, 60 people, 48 people, whatever it is for Yonkaping, and make the NA one that much bigger because you know you're going to get the signups. But that's the only argument against this I can see. And even that doesn't make sense. Yeah, fine. Okay. You know, travel, COVID, everything else. It's okay if a couple slots aren't filled. Like, we're not going to, people on broadcast are not going to dwell on the fact that, well, there are only 55 people and 64 slots or whatever it is. They're going to talk about the games. Like, it really, I don't know.
I just can't see how they cost cut. Sorry, feardragon, go ahead.
Sorry, I have so much more to rant about. I want to let other people speak because I know I will actually hog the mic. So please just interrupt me if you guys have something to say, because otherwise I'm just going to be going off for forever.
Okay.
Yes, the cost cutting, that's the other part about it that doesn't quite make sense, because in a sense, like in a pure vacuum of like ideal landscape, right? The cost for running a 1,000 person event where the prize pool is going to only pay out top 16 is the same as the cost of just running a 16 person event where you pay out every single player, assuming there's no additional costs for just having players play. So I was trying to think about like a budget wise, maybe there's some cost associated with having more players. And I'm like, okay, well, they're not renting the venue for more days, so it's not a venue cost. There's not a space issue at almost any of these dream hacks. Like, I can never think of a time where I'm like, oh no, they just don't have the space for more PCs or anything. The PCs, as far as I'm aware, are also like rented and stuff like that, and that's usually not an issue because they basically have their company that they already have like available and everything. They just have all those PCs laying around between events, so I don't think that's an issue. The hours aren't any different really because they've also, they're gonna take up the exact same amount of days and all that stuff. They could literally just pay out less deep into the tournament. So it's like, I can't think of any budget reasons why this
Yeah.
change would make sense.
Do you
So
need
the
more-
only thing I can think of is scheduling is that they're trying to go for shorter days because they also made a bunch of other scheduling changes for like double elimination bracket and all that stuff. But even then, I look at that tournament format and everything. I'm like, I'm not sure that this will make that much of a difference time wise. B, if it's worth it.
Yeah, Beomulf.
Well, I was gonna say like maybe you have to buy some more admins, but even going into that, everything else, you don't have to broadcast the first couple rounds. So like from the concept of a broadcast day perspective, you say, hey, show up at bright and early. First couple rounds are gonna happen, or even if, I mean, okay, that's going a little too hard, and that removes the quality of the land. But like you still maybe start your broadcast day later. You know, you cut that down if that's one of the cost saving metrics that you're looking for, and you just don't broadcast the round of 128 because
We
not
don't
a lot of people are going to watch
Yeah,
it
we
anyways.
don't anyways.
We don't do
Yeah,
the
we
mainstream
yeah.
never did group stage 1.
Exactly.
It never did.
Yeah. As far as people are throwing out possible costs, we don't know what the costs are. We
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And that is that's just truth. So someone who does know could just be sitting there and being like, idiots. Feel free to speak up. But even the only response we got about questioning this was from Alex, and he just said, well, Valencia didn't have a lot of signups.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason given. If he had said, we really do save money with this, I think we would all be like, all right. But it wasn't even that. And I can't, like hiring another admin, maybe. I am actually fairly sure that a lot of those guys are actually like volunteer, paid super little, or DreamHack admins or something. So I don't know how much that would actually cost. Adding more table space, adding more space, I thought maybe they would have less room for vendors, which I could see being an issue. I actually think that would be 100% an issue for Katowice because we were really just like jammed in there. But for Valencia, we were not. For Atlanta, we were not. And that's why the crowd could take up so much space. So I can't imagine that's really the issue.
And there's also like they have the open play area, right? The LAN tournament, because there was a StarCraft open play tournament that I know Steadfast competed in. If you make the early rounds like that, but like, yeah, you gotta get a LAN pass or something. I don't know if you have no EPT points and you play it from there. That's kind of the space issue solved.
Yeah.
Because they just have half their convention floor is PCs and people playing for 36 hours straight.
Well,
Okay.
that one was a BYOC.
Yeah,
So
I'm aware.
you had to bring your own computer.
Which is also
Yeah.
something they could change too. If I know
Yeah.
feardragon brought up the computers and like, does it actually cost a whole lot? You could be like, well, first 32 signups don't.
Yeah, it's like round of 128 is BYOC and you qualify into the main thing. Okay.
Uppetry had a really interesting case made about that, where it was just like, imagine that they just made the StarCraft thing BYOC if that truly was like the issue.
Yeah.
And you can rent computers from there. So imagine teams are just paying the extra like $30 or $40 or whatever to rent the computer. I actually think atmosphere wise it'd be kind of cool if all the pro players are just there and they just have a computer there for the whole weekend and everything as well. But
Does DreamHack allow you to rent PCs as part of the BYOC ticket?
No.
Yeah. I thought they did.
Not in Atlanta, I don't think.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't.
The problem would 100% be the eventual tryhard pros who would be like, I have to have a 144 hertz monitor, and I have to have
Actually, someone to put it in perspective, one of the players, a few of the players that competed, actually, so the SC2 tournament that was on the side was actually a BYOC SC tournament, and you were supposed to have a BYOC ticket as well and compete from the BYOC section, so as to not have a bunch of pro players come in and like gobble up the money.
You mean like Blighted in 2018 or something?
Exactly, and that's what happened is that many players actually ended up playing. Now this then gives the lie to there's not enough PCs because there was actually players playing from the actual DreamHack place playing in the BYOC tournament.
Or there was like the people were playing. I think you played for like a couple games from like the free play trial area.
Yeah, I played from the free play.
Yeah.
Now what you could do is then be like, hey, like DreamHack, we need you to make the free play tournament not entirely free play for like 6 hours, because they did have a crap ton of PCs there. And especially on Friday morning, it would not be a problem at all to be like, we need 16 of these PCs for a little bit. Don't ask. No, they literally, it wasn't even full the whole time. Like it could have been a complete, and if anything, this would be an amazing thing, because this is now you doubling the like utility of your space.
Yeah. And it's only for one day too, right? Like the tournament severely
One morning, really.
downsizes after the first day. So
Yeah.
we're also not even talking about you're actually just not adding any money to the second and third day, I would believe.
No.
So that doesn't make much sense to me. In general, I would assume, but I don't do DreamHacks, I don't do conventions. I would assume that if you had the ability to get 40 more people paying the $70 entry fee, and I checked it, that would be worth a lot of whatever costs are there, because you don't do anything else for the customer when they pay that. You're not like giving them food or anything like that. And if you had the opportunity to also do a bring your own computer that also was full, again, you would want to have people pay you $70 to do that. What I'm saying is, remember that they're giving something to do this. This isn't just DreamHack giving stuff for free and we're boo-hooing because they're not giving us shit after I just made fun of them, not supporting a bunch of semi-pros. We do give them money in exchange for this experience, and it's a decent amount of money. And for some people, I would imagine it's actually a make or break trip experience. I'm not going to go to just watch StarCraft, and the convention doesn't really appeal to me. But playing, getting a couple of friends, road tripping down there with our computers, that's classic esports shit. So it just seems like a really, it seems like, some business words that I don't know, but the revenue stream has been cut off as opposed to expanded potentially. And that is something that, literally they don't want to do, right? That's why they don't sell like the IP of StarCraft, because in the future it could be huge revenue. So they just keep it. So that's my very casual, very uneducated perspective on this issue. I feel like they could be making money off of this.
To put it in perspective to how bad of a decision specifically it is for Atlanta, if they had we could actually see a post, and it would be a very smart post in this perspective, that they say, actually, we've increased the number of open slots. They could have been like, we're actually going to juice the number up so we can make an extra, $4,000 or something by bumping the number of slots from 64 to 96?
128, whatever it is. Yeah,
done that.
Yeah,
easily.
And if it was a dramatic change, if it was round of 500, whatever, 512, and it got cut, I'd be like, oh well, we probably didn't need 500 seats. That's
scheduling
fair.
also, yeah.
But it's a very small change. I should say it doesn't seem like it would impact a great amount of space or a lot of pay money problems. We did have someone who says that Jönköping actually is very small, so maybe it would look like more like Katowice, and that is a legitimate issue for the city name that I'm definitely going to learn to pronounce if I end up casting it. But we know for a fact that Atlanta is like freaking golden. And the only problem with not differing the two is because it wouldn't be fair. The Europeans would only have so many slots, and they live in Europe. So that's what they would want to go to. They're not going to fly to Atlanta to get more spots. And I'm like, well, again, we're kind of in like a fuck fairness attitude anyways, right? We just cut off entire regions from having any chance to get into tournaments.
Yeah.
And let's be
real. If it's
real,
there, it's there. Give the people what they want.
And we're talking about expanding the bottom end, the people that aren't going to make any money on this and are not going to qualify into the points where the points anyway. So is it really screwing over the Europeans if it's adding on my ability to play in a tournament? Not really.
It's literally adding money at the expense of North American people into the overall StarCraft kitty. So it's once again helping Europe at the cost of NA. So it's just anyone who's making that argument is out of their head. Even say so silly.
It's actually helping Europe because if you just take Liquipedia point standings from last year, just what's the cutout for top 48? Because that's how many players can play in this event. I mean, we're not just talking about random here's some top 200 NA StarCraft player or something. It's DNS. It's Petit Drogo. It's Zest, actually. Strange, Milky Cow, Vanya, aka Rattata, aka Wayne, Keen, Disc, Cyan, Goblin, Future. These are not rando names. These are also a lot of the actual players who will make it into, say, some of the DreamHack regionals for Europe and stuff. They're also not going to be able to play.
Mm-hmm. I wish we had some answer at this point. Again,
I
if
just
he,
hope it
had,
gets-
Frustration.
if he had just said it cost too much money, I'd be like, well, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
hope it gets changed for Atlanta because
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, because there's no good reason that I can think of it, and like there was in terms of the space issue. I don't think obviously Fear Dragon and CG, you guys weren't like physically at Atlanta. Atlanta had such an abundance of space. There was so much extra space where they could have put and this is with the current setup that they had now. Now, yes, they would have needed to budget space for the commentators, but there was actually a ton of room in the back behind things. Like
Yeah.
there was a vast amount of space. And to that point, they added chairs like 4 times.
Oh, more than that.
They
like,
probably, on the caster point, they probably actually already had space for commentators. We
Yeah,
always
wouldn't
fit in
surprise
that
me.
back anyways.
yep.
But, Spix's green room would have been our green room. As small as it was. So yeah,
do we
that space
have-
is not an issue.
Yeah. Do we have like more stuff to talk about?
Talking points about this
Yeah.
in particular, not so much. We talk about the Open Cups now being more important. We talked about, we kind of talked about the seeding. They're going to go off of the initial Swiss regional that we have, like coming up in May, is going to be based off of last year in Katowice. Thank you very much to everyone who's been supporting, by the way, during this. And seeding rules, we don't have to go into. Player invites are just detailing, how they're doing it for this year. So yeah, not too much to talk about on the announcement front here. Do any of you guys have anything more?
I only have 2 things. One, I would love it if they released the 2023-2024 rulebook because
Oh, please.
I'm still waiting for that, and that's where it's going to answer a lot of my like unique questions around what is the point distribution and all that stuff, because that's also going to matter a lot, especially when we're talking about not only are there just fewer open sign-up spots, but now it's prioritized by EPT points. So how many points are regionals getting? Is there going to be this situation where like Europe is getting way more EPT points compared to North America? Or so like, hey, maybe a bunch of Europeans get top 32 and Americans who got like top 16 or like top 8 are just getting outpointed in the signups by the top 32 Europeans, and they just don't get to play, even though like theoretically top 8 or like what's going to be the equivalent for point exchange? Is top 8 North America going to be or America's going to be considered like top 32 Europe or what? So those kind of questions I really want to know the answer to. That comes out with a rule book. The other question I had, I forgot, so never mind.
That's a really good point though, because like if things are like not fairly valued, you could effectively kill one. Like you could
it
effectively
snowballs,
be
too.
killing like 3 players' career for the year. Like
It snowballs too, because if you don't make the signups to play in say Jönköping, what happens is Jönköping probably awards points.
yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely
now
it
the
will.
next event you are even less likely to get in, even if you do well in your regionals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah.
And that's like at the very beginning of my rant where I was saying like this all comes together with the previous points. If you don't make it into your regionals, you become less likely to be able to actually play in the actual event. And by not being able to play in the potential of the actual event, even if you make the next regionals, you may not make it into the event.
I guess the one mitigating factor there that we can't talk about because we don't know yet is like, is there going to be a TSL? Are there going to be Alpha X events? Are there going to be home story cups? Realistically, from the kind of rumblings I hear about how Take didn't really enjoy working the ESL system last year, I don't know that they're going to have EPT points, but are there going to be external events that actually give EPT points? Because then that maybe could be some mitigation on that.
Yeah.
Hey, words are hard, ZG, okay?
No, you're right, but then historically they've all been in Europe anyways. Very
That's
unlikely
fair.
North Americans get far enough to go, and then if there's any open signups, they don't go anyways.
Yeah, and I don't. Cheese wouldn't get EPT points, and then kind of from seeing how they've been tweeting about it, I don't think we get another cheese this year, anyways. So that's
Right.
gone.
Oh yeah, that's over. Like there's no way. Also, for what it's worth, I'll say like the TSL events and a lot of those things. Like when I look at those, they're usually really stacked. and the number of EPT points they're actually giving is lower than, say, like a DreamHacks and stuff. And if you compare the number of EPT points that they're awarding for like the top 32 players or something that would actually be affected by these kind of cutoffs and stuff, it's like 5 or 10 points, which, as we saw recently in the case of Katowice, can make an effect for Oceania players and things like that. Those Home Story Cup last place finishes can matter, but outside of like those rare occasions of those tiebreaker things, I think usually the regional points are still going to matter a lot more because you still get like 100 to 200 points, and like last place for one of those third-party events is like still 5 points or something.
Yeah, like Africa Champions Cup was 25, which is 3-ish EPT Cup victories. Something like that?
Yeah. And TSL, like to give you an idea, TSL 9, last place was like 10 points. And the player caliber of last place for TSL 9 was like Nightmare, Sue, Dongri Gu, Mana, Skillis, Wayne / Rattata / Vanya, Gerald. Like, these are not the, oh, I'm on the like cutting edge of barely doing okay in my region. These are like damn good players.
I do think if we are going to push the onus to a lot of community events, that's effectively what's going on here. And it's happening. We have a lot of money going into a lot of these community events. Some with like very little effort too. Like people were just obviously very eager to support it.
Well,
I do think we should be adding EPT points to some of them, putting the official stamp on.
I do know that I don't think the conversations ever went through because KSL, the Korean StarCraft League, would then have had to run like 3 events: Europe, North America, and Asia. But I do know that there were conversations with the stakeholders involved to get KSL EPT level EPT or EPT Cup level EPT points. So again, that didn't happen, but I know that there is at least some discussion on some of those things kind of behind the scenes that might happen. But
yeah, I know there's issues to being a part of the EPT circuit.
Mm-hmm.
What if we just like, what if like ESL just did something cool and like made it like not an issue?
That'd be nice. If you didn't have to.
It would be very interesting to get Wardy's take on it, because the sense like I like can't remember if I like had a dream about Wardy saying this or something, and if it didn't actually happen, if it really did. But the sense I've gotten from Wardy is that even if I think he could ask for like partnership on some of his events and stuff, I think that he wouldn't / like feels like it'd be really difficult and would cause all those hurdles. So I'd love to hear a description of what the actual hurdles and stuff are,
right?
And what are the like problems that arise.
Yeah, because I know one of them that's being brought up in chat is that you can't have invites. I don't think it's a problem, actually.
Well, all you need to do, you just change the rule book, because this is exactly what happened, and it would have been a non-issue. You have to win a round in order to get EPT points. That's all you need to do. It's the easiest damn thing. Or even do it something like a little more convoluted than that. You have to win a round against a player that also has EPT points. Like, if you get an invite to a tournament, you shouldn't just get EPT points by showing up. That should not be how it is.
Don't you literally do that at DreamHack events if you make the seed?
Yeah, I thought that's how DreamHack worked.
If you sign up for it, yes. But like that only happened at Valencia because like 25 people couldn't go because of COVID. But actually, there's like a random diamond player who finished the season with like 30 EPT points last year. It was very funny.
Yeah, sometimes you get in those and it's like no one signed up for an EPT Cup and you can get some points, but
that doesn't happen for EPT Cups anymore. But
it kind of happened when Katowice was happening for EPT Korea.
You're talking about Chiaki Nanami. That's the future GOAT you're talking about. They played some very good StarCraft, but that, to be fair, that is literally during the World Championship.
Yeah,
that is at the end of the season. It doesn't affect anything. Yeah, I don't think that's too big of a deal because going into the other tournaments, you're going to have a lot of people still competing, and it's not like they didn't beat real players during this event. They just didn't beat the top 16 players in South Korea. They beat the players that didn't make it to IEM Katowice, and that's fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we just need to know more information about why it is difficult to get the points. But I think it would be worth evaluating I think that should be now a conversation. If ESL is serious about continuing to support StarCraft for as long as they can without really angering like stockholders or something like that, wasting $1 bajillion, and this is a system that is okay for them, they're like, we could do this, we're getting a good enough return. I feel like conversations in the future should be with a lot of these people. It wouldn't be the first esports scene that had a very much collective point system.
So can we all agree to try something? Can we just pretend? We just tell whoever, like, I don't know, let's say Saudi Arabia, whatever it was, UAE. Can we just tell them that StarCraft 3 actually did release? Can we just tell them that it did and then be like, look, we need $15 million for StarCraft 3. There's a good chance they won't check.
They might do that for StarCraft 2, actually.
Has anyone tried that?
No, okay, so this is very questionable, but a DreamHack admin, something like that, put out a tweet out the other day saying, hey, are there any Arabic-speaking StarCraft casters / analysts?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you all are aware, there's this Gamers 8 tournament that ran last year that had a Dota tournament and a Counter-Strike tournament, and I think Fortnite or something. And they are very slowly dragging their heels this year in announcing what it is. And I think there was a Rocket League tournament. Every single one was millions of dollars in terms of prize pool. And ESL actually just announced a circuit of their own EPT circuit on top of what Valve is doing for Dota, where they're going to run 2 LANs. And then the World Championship for that tournament is going to be that Gamers 8 tournament in Riyadh. So it's not savvy, but it's the same thing of let's put a lot of money into esports of different variants. And we can argue the moralities of that in a different conversation. But there is maybe the slightest bit of rumors that we might get something. Again, this is me extrapolating, and like maybe I'm massively on copium. I don't know.
Expect something in the next month.
Okay.
Basically, I think more information will be coming out soon about that.
So how long do you think it'll take to learn Arabic?
Second question.
I don't know about I don't know what they're going for with the Arabic speaking StarCraft caster.
Okay.
I have no idea what that's going. Well, I just mean contextually. I guess they want to have a local broadcast team with a tournament, which doesn't happen basically in their StarCraft 2 event, which is why I'm
they did that
confirming.
They did that for the Gamers 8 Dota tournament where their entire broadcast was in Arabic, and then they brought in a couple they brought in a couple Dota commentators to do the online English broadcast.
Yeah.
And I think they did that with every of those Gamers 8 tournaments last year.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good evidence to something happening later in the year with that. If it is going to happen, when it is announced, there's going to be, I think, a lot of shitstorm then. And then we could have another talk show. Just already going to say it, if they do have it in Saudi Arabia, I'm not going to go, even if they ask.
Yeah. Why not, ZombieGrub?
I was told by other people who have done Saudi Arabian events that they do take very good care of the commentators. They make sure that everyone knows these are special people. So they've had women over there doing esports events, and they were not, nothing bad happened to them.
Are you allowed to eat at the same table with us?
Yes, actually, they officially made it okay in 2021.
Oh wow!
The fact
I did
that
look
was
into
a
this.
question with a real answer.
Yeah, sorry,
that
it
was
is.
an actual law.
Yeah. They
didn't
recently
realize that was
let it happen. Because the whole thing is that the new guy was supposed to be more what's the word?
Progressive?
Yes, thank you, progressive, exactly. And kind of, it's we'll just trickle it in, one thing every year.
Hey, women can drive now.
That's true.
It took them arresting the people pushing the argument, and then 6 months later they said, "Oh, it's fine, you can do it."
But it's going to be really fun having this conversation, all while being, freelance workers of a company that is owned by Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So that's an if, but I think if anything does happen, we'll know more very soon, because they got to release the schedule for everything by regionals, I would expect. So that's why I said expect more news within the month. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Huh?
Yeah, because
That
there's no
interesting use
way
of the word freelance.
freelance.
Oh,
Mm.
gotcha.
That hurts. Oh no.
Oh, you were gonna say something, feardragon?
Just saying, yeah, we're well known for getting our news out in a timely fashion before.
That's true.
events, so.
They could definitely be like, Sweden events in a week. By the way, there's something else happening in 2 months or a month. Let's go. I mean, they basically sprung the qualifiers on the pros,
Yeah.
right? They're just like, by the way, you guys, all the people who are like vacationing and like focused on content creation, like, way to go. But you better be tip-top shape in 2 weeks.
I don't want to drag back up an old discussion point, but if you can't make the 2 or 3 days to those qualifiers because you already scheduled a vacation, then you don't get to play in the regionals, so you don't get the EPT points, so you probably might not be able to play into the offline event, so you probably won't be able to actually play into the second offline event of the year, so you probably won't make it to Katowice. So I hope you didn't schedule your vacations that first qualifier weekend.
I hope I didn't schedule my girlfriend's birthday the weekend of all the qualifiers. They're all in a 3-day period. So that's
Wow.
great. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even
Your
catch
girlfriend
that.
will understand.
Damn. All right, he wants to do the 16-hour streamathon with me.
I mean, Steadfast, you literally just get her to co-cast with you, and now it's someone who's streaming and it's their birthday, so you just get money thrown at you guys. Like, what's the
Smart.
problem?
Smart.
Brilliant.
I know my when I cast things, my chat is half the time. Whenever my girlfriend shows up in chat, they're trying to get her to cast with me. So I don't know if you have a similar experience, but value.
I would have a similar experience if I had one. A girlfriend, boyfriend. I was waiting for feardragon to make the joke, but then he didn't.
Sorry, I was reading Killer Smile's point about how if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would not be treated as a special commentator. They would look at me and be like, he's one of the normals.
Oh no.
I feel like that's a very touchy subject, and the three white people is just like.
Oh my god, this is where being a minority finally comes in handy. I found our power. We can be socially awkward around topics that white males can't.
Oh no.
I am looking forward to being the de facto woman of the conversation if a StarCraft 2 event happens in Saudi
Ooh.
Arabia.
Who hosts the Saudi Arabia event?
That does raise a good question, ZG. Since you are the only option amongst women to make this tournament seem okay, you could command a very healthy sum.
Imagine that conversation though. They're like, "You want to do this?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And they're like, "Yeah, but we're gonna pay you a lot more." And I'm like, "No, I'd still like, I'd be very scared. I don't want to do it. We're gonna pay you way
6
more."
So much more. Take a number and add 2 zeros to the end.
And
you're
then
You'll literally never have to work again if you do this.
You're like, $10,000?
all right, well now
That's
my
amazing.
10,000. If they gave me $10 million, then I might have to have I might have to change my moral stance. I don't, money is the root of all evil. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't care who you are. If they offer any of us $10 million to do that Saudi Arabian land, we are doing that. We are fucking off forever, and we are taking the bag. That is what's happening. That is our retirement announcement.
Yeah, imagine
I don't
this.
think there's.
Oh my God!
anyone.
Imagine they have so much money, right? They have so much money, okay, that they just hire every single StarCraft 2 commentator, right? And they're like, "We're gonna give you each $10 million," and we're like, "We're saved." Like, this is like the final event we have to do, and we don't have to care if StarCraft suddenly disappears next year.
You guys
We're
have a very
good.
different outlook on this than I do.
I mean,
if someone offers me $10 million, I'm assuming they're not going to pay me out because
So
we're
that-
still in esports.
That is okay. Besides being in esports, that's my ultimate like bummer killer, like a joke killer about like, would you do this for $10 million? And I'm like, bitch, they ain't gonna pay me $10 million.
Yeah.
Like they gotta run away. Like what? But with that type of money and those type of people, I shouldn't have said that. Rich people, very rich people, it would seem so in line right? If like a literal Saudi prince was like, I'll give you $10 million, and they were just like super casual about it, I'd
Yeah,
be like,
like-
you would.
There is
Yeah.
there's a guy famous like on the Dota side who pours literally like single digit millions of dollars or something like that into his international battle pass every year. Like he'll go up to like level 600,000 or something and just keep pouring it in. Where he literally, because I think he did an AMA once, literally has servants in his palace opening the chests for him because it takes too long for him to do it himself. Okay.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So like,
Servants.
and I guess adding on to that, actually, no, I'm not going to say that because that is doxing my brother, and that's not going to work out. But yes, suffice to say that ZG is 100% correct.
I believe it. All right, you know, like that would be very interesting. I would have quite the moral dilemma. But anyways,
I mean, I guess the way you assuage that is like you take a good majority of that money and you build your own EPT circuit.
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
and like donate it to a lot of good charities and like help people in need, and that, you know, the net, you know, positive outweighs the
You're going to
the
donate
negative.
to Oceania?
Exactly, the people in need, the really needy people, the Australians.
Oh my God.
Oscraft.
Love you guys.
Look, as long as we don't do anything with NFTs, I think we're just fine.
No,
you know? Like, that's where
you
we all
stole
draw
the joke.
line.
I've been sitting on this for like 3
Oh, I'm
minutes.
so
I've been waiting.
sorry,
I was
Robbie.
like, so anyways, guys, if any of you have any cryptocurrencies you think are going to go to the moon, ZombieGrub is taking offers.
This is like that joke where you ask someone if they would have sex for this much money, and you keep raising the amount of money, and then when they get to like $10 million, they're like, fine, I'd have sex with you if you gave me $10 million. And they're like, well, now we know what type of person you are. We're just trying to figure out what money you want. It's like $10 million?
I mean, there's a reason
Oh,
that
you
they
will
say
sell out
everyone
for
has
your
their
morals.
price.
Yeah, exactly. You are the type of
like,
person to sell it for your morals. I see.
And some people, it's not money, but everyone does have a price. I think it's pretty naive to pretend that like that's not the case.
I don't know.
That's
I
true.
wouldn't. I mean, this is totally not StarCraft anymore. I don't think I would kill someone for $10 million.
No,
I
but you
wouldn't.
would dip your hair into pasta sauce and change your stream title to Scarlet Ladder Stream.
Of
for
course, I would do
$1,000.
that. Of course, that doesn't have to be for $10 million. Like,
That's
it
a
has to be
great
more than
idea to
1,000.
do.
I think that's what you
$10
offered
million.
me.
She said for 1,000.
Oh, when I was like drunk? No. And then I was like, no, wait,
Yeah.
how's that good? Wait. Anyways, I had another point. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if this happens and everyone's like, oh, big money. And then they're like, we're going to pay you $600 the entire week.
Oh yeah,
That would be the most classic esports thing ever. It's like
Zombie Grub.
massive
You are
prize pool,
forgetting.
no money for the talent.
Exactly.
You're forgetting that if this happened, it would not be I'm guessing. I'm taking random stabs. It wouldn't be Saudi Arabia reaching out. It would be ESL reaching out.
Yes.
You're going to be negotiating
Oh my
with
God.
ESL.
Imagine that. Imagine pocketing that money too, actually. That was a good. Anyways, I managed to bother someone in chat. I bothered someone on YouTube by saying anywho. They made like a 6-paragraph essay on how it's not a word. But
Anywho,
anyways,
you're saying.
anywho's. I say anywho's all the time. Are you kidding me? Of course.
Did you're talking about that? Oh, what was it? Never mind. I can't remember what they would say. So never mind. Yeah. Did your parents growing up like say vamonos? Like we're gonna like let's go, let's vamonos.
No,
Okay, because that is I thought that was real Spanish until I got into like
it's not.
freshman year of high school. No, it's vamos.
Oh yeah, I would know that actually. What is vomit? Why did they come up with vominos?
Because it sounds good. I don't know.
You know, back in like the 60s, they had to educate
Be like,
the American
"Nos
people
vamos."
about how to say taco.
I thought vominos is a word.
No, it's vamos as we go. Nos vamos would be hey, like we're all gonna go, but it's repetitive because vamos is third person plural.
I thought vominos means let's go.
No, vamos means we're gonna go.
No, Vamonos
No,
is
vominos
also,
does mean let's go.
It also means let's
It's
go. I'm pretty
real.
sure.
Yeah.
Have I been lied to by like however
Like,
many
there's
years of
layers
Spanish?
of
I don't-
lies.
It's like both, I think, are actually things. I was not sure about this when you said it, and I looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it is. Vamonos is also a word.
Yeah.
Colloquially for instead of nos vamos.
I
So it's
mean,
not a
if
real
we're
word,
go-
it's a colloquialism.
Well, but that depends on if it's in the dictionary, because there's a lot of things that used to be colloquialisms that are now.
I mean, anything that's not English is not a real word anyways, so it's all just kind of like
It's a
grading
great
amongst
point.
B tiers.
All words
of
are made up.
languages. Yeah. Except for English words.
They're especially
Whenever
made
Nacho
up.
says I'm right, and I'm like, everyone else saying I'm wrong, one person in chat saying I'm right, so like, that's all we need.
That's
oh
all
my
we need.
god. Where have we seen this before?
Before we turn this into a
anyways.
talk show about what casters say incorrectly.
Okay. I'm either leaving or I'm going to change my camera so I can eat my burrito that arrived an
I
hour
think we
ago.
got it. I think this has been 3.5 hours. We talked about all the EPT stuff. I had a wonderful time, and I'd be happy to do it again on a different topic. But I think we're good now. I think we got it. Right?
Yeah.
Any last comment? Any questions from chat? It doesn't have to be about StarCraft. You really don't want it to be.
Chat, tell us your price, chat.
Yeah, what's your
Ravi,
price?
what breeder do you have?
I
Does he
don't
have
have,
a
a
burrito?
dog. I don't have a breed. What?
What type of burrito do you have?
Oh, I think it
Burrito.
said breeder, and I'm like, I
I
don't
also
have a
heard
dog.
breeder at
Like,
first.
what?
Yes, I want to know about your thoughts about like fusion reaction and how we're going to be sustainable.
What should-
I want to know your thoughts on breeder reactors.
Should we talk about Steadfast saying boof?
Oh my
Oh God.
Oh no!
Is this a Sheila
Yeah.
Wolf thing?
Steadfast. Tell us about how that Zerg got boofed.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No.
This is it's gonna come up like when Steadfast goes and like ends up somehow on the Supreme Court, and that's how he gets during the hearing.
Just,
Do you know what this means?
Just Google what the word means, and you'll yeah. I had been saying that for quite a while actually.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Just because I was like, oh man, this is just a fun word that sounds kind of like bopped. And then someone in chat was finally like, you know what that means, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like,
oh, what?
it's this. And I was like, oh, I'm going to stop saying
no.
that. And then,
oh,
yeah.
man. This has gone the way of pegging. God damn it. I fucking hate that peg or pegged is just so sexualized now. You can't say it in any other context.
That's why we
Boof
can't have nice things.
is the sound of a blower collision.
A blower collision?
Blow
Like-
or collision. Like wham.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like you like clap
Yeah.
them, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
jump over hydraulic backwash in a high gradient mountain river. Came from kayaking, apparently.
Okay.
It also means something else.
Apparently, but that's because people want to add sex to everything. It became the sex word because that's the sound that people were imagining were happening with the sex.
What
But the
kind
original
of-
word wasn't from it.
What kind of relations are they having where that's the sound that
I
it
don't
makes?
know.
Good ones.
People are terrible. They'll sexualize anything. See, I feel like we should take back the word railroaded. I feel like that was a good.
Because feardragon said it on front.
Marco Burns talked to me about that because I didn't realize it was sexualized.
I mean, honestly, my head does not go the sex. If you're talking about
It
someone
goes
gets railroaded,
to a train running over something.
no, mine is like a railroading is like I think like, oh wow, there's only one path you can go, right?
Yeah.
Like a D&D or something like
Yeah.
someone gets railroaded into a story or a game plan.
Boofing is also not, like, it means, the original meaning is not sexual. I just want to throw it out there, all right? We need to move away from sexualizing all the words, okay?
Yeah, but then like it's comedy and we lose out on comedy and or something.
There's already
Yeah.
enough words where if someone does it, you go, and we don't need more.
That's fair.
Isn't it funnier when just everything in the world means penis? Like, isn't that just better?
Yes, everything that is
You know?
a straight line is a penis, apparently.
Yeah.
I still
Or
don't know
with,
why the
like,
Washington
a slight
Monument is a
curve in either
penis.
direction.
If it curves, I give it a little more credit.
Yeah.
But what is the Washington Monument? How is that a penis?
I mean, painfully.
Anything's a penis if you're up for it.
Where have we gone wrong? Like in life. That's led us to this point.
I mean, I gave up on this conversation. I'm just eating. I'm just pretending like I'm off stream now.
I mean, Fear Dragon, that burrito is
He's looking mighty fine going into that
it's
purry mouth of yours.
long and it's linear.
I like how this very quickly turned into an after hours stream
Sorry.
in the course of about 3 minutes.
No, you guys
very
don't understand how
quickly.
grateful I am right now. Because normally I hang out with ZombieGrub and she does this kind of stuff and tries to like gross me out. But I'm at home right now. I have a slider that can just mute her when she starts talking like that.
Oh, that's a good
And I
call.
wait for her mouth to stop moving, and then I turn it back up.
But
By the way, Rubby, you might want to be careful with how you're eating that burrito. You might get yourself disqualified from casting that Saudi tournament. I'm just saying.
you got to eat it from the side.
Oh my god.
I'm
Don't eat
in
any
the
hot
same-
dogs or bananas either.
I'm in the same probably unsafe in Saudi Arabia boat as ZombieGrub, so
But one thing I guess Steadfast did point out is you're like, oh, this has turned into an after-hour stream. I've pitched this to Alex, and I don't know if it's going to go anywhere.
Oh.
I tried to get something set up for Valencia, or for Atlanta that last year wasn't able to happen. But how awesome would it be to just have, I don't know, rent out like a table at a bar or something, set a camera up and take some people and just have some sort of after-hour show.
I have been saying this for so long.
I
We
want it
need-
to happen so badly.
We need to casualize some of this shit, man. And there's even more reason to because it's cheaper.
Like, I'm
Yep.
okay with it being, for the World Championships or whatever, like being pretty formal, but having that opportunity to have a beer with, I don't know, with Cyril at Atlanta and
That
like,
would
hey,
actually be
tell us
so
about your
cool.
day.
You
Like,
could
it'd be
like
The
you
best
could,
content.
Yeah, you could let people just like eat and watch as well, right? Like as long as they're not super loud. But you'd have a crowd potentially, and then you'd have crowd minders. But still,
Yeah.
like that would actually be a pretty cool setup.
TI does it really well. I know I keep referring to Dota, but it's kind of the other esport I really follow. They do it really well. They have one every day of the tournament. They got two hosts that are less serious, far jokier. They bring in community members, they bring in players, they bring in whoever, and it goes for an hour, and it's
Hmm
the best thing.
That was the setup
And-
for the CS:GO tournament. That was literally their caster desk.
Okay.
And if we we could do this in a way that could potentially save StarCraft 2 as well. You just have like tier lists. You'd be like, okay, for $5, you can, I don't know, have a beer with a commentator of your choice. For $15, you can have, take a picture with 3 commentators. For $7.5 million, you can have a beer with Cyril, Rayner, and I don't know, the whole Basilisk squad. And just like that, boom, we just get one of those final things and we're good.
This
Easy
actually does
peasy.
remind me a lot about how In Control has a legitimate story where he did go
Oh yeah.
Yep.
to, I think, Saudi Arabia. I don't remember, but like
He was
because
Saudi Prince, yeah.
Yeah, literally a Saudi prince just liked him and brought him over.
Well, wasn't it like he was paying him buttloads of money to coach him or something? Or is that a different story
coach
I'm
him.
thinking of? Okay.
Yes, coach him. I don't remember how much money it was, but it was a lot.
It was.
Isn't it weird
It
how
was
we
in millions.
sexualized buttloads too?
Have we sexualized buttloads?
I don't think so.
You think it would be sexualized. But
Yeah, the more I think about it, the worse it gets.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I assume that was a Dota meme in chat.
Yes. The
Yeah.
2G, the 2 good thing. Yeah, that's a Dota meme.
I would also love to just be able to set it up myself, right? Like, I have no qualms setting it up myself, a situation like that. The problem is usually that as the people working at the event, our days are way too long.
That and what I ran into when I was trying to get it set up was we had no idea when the day was going to end. So
That's
even
it.
if
I
it
know
was
a
just
solution. So
Sorry?
what we do, we get Sal or someone to set up the technical aspects of it, and then we get all the players who signed up for the open bracket but couldn't get in to go
Ooh.
be the stream,
Oh my God.
that would be chaos.
so they can make back some of the money they spent getting
Oof.
there.
Oh my God.
It'd be awesome if things could happen, but we really have no other announcements yet.
Mhm.
We don't have any information. None of us are even hiding information, really. I mean, we're hiding some information, I suppose, but
I mean, there is that one thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure.
I mean,
Beomulf really just tried to bait us all into saying things that we don't know about.
Annie
the
will
goal
know
is to
very
bait chat.
I had this exact scenario with Annie once upon a time where I was like, well, I know something. And she said, well, I know something too. And I was like, do you know what I know? She was like, do I? And then we just were like, can we say at the same time what we know?
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were talking about the same thing. No secrets were revealed, but
That Ross and Rachel are dating.
that Ross and Rachel broke
Literally,
up.
you just literally described, I think, or sorry, it was Chandler and Monica. Sorry, that was an episode. of
Oh,
Friends.
yeah,
That was
exactly.
The,
That was
the
actually-
exact conversation.
That is
happened.
exact conversation. You're right. Do you know what I know?
No, it's Snape kills Dumbledore. That's what it is.
Oh my god, I was gonna read that later.
Oh no. I'm sorry, ZG. I'll make it up to you somehow.
This story is 100% truth. There once was a streamer who goofed. His name was Steadfast. He avoided the crass until he learned the meaning of boof.
It's actually so good.
Except you hung out with Crest like every day we were at Atlanta though.
You need to make
Oh
that a
my
command.
God.
Actually, can we
Exclamation
can we-
point boof.
That is
Okay.
honestly, yeah, do it.
We make this podcast thing or like the live version of it or whatever. But we have a $25 text-to-speech that will talk over louder than all of
Do
us. We will make so much money.
Yo, we just artosicize the stream.
That's the real secret to making money. If you count
It
up
really is.
the amount of money that man's made, $3 donation every 3 minutes, all right? Like,
Which is again
333 at a time, all the way to the moon.
Yeah.
mhm.
the biggest sadness of 2-minute delays.
Yeah.
That's unironically why he like changed.
Oh,
So
100%.
that's
yeah.
why he hired an observer to do
yeah.
ESL weeklies. Is he's like, yeah, I want to be able to do this with no delay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Smart move if you can afford it.
It's a very smart move for his content. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Well, I think we should cut it off though. I mean, yeah, we should probably cut it off. Love to do it again sometime. We just need more of we need to have a subject to talk about, and then we can do whatever the hell we want afterwards. It's the way the talk shows work, right? So
Yeah.
thanks for all y'all coming by on very short notice to talk about it. And make sure to check out all of their streams, guys. It's in the amazing writing on the stream. And, yeah.
If you guys think that this is an awesome idea, we could always theoretically do a Patreon for this. Do it more frequently.
if you guys really wanted some talk shows.
If you
Personally,
really want a talk show.
I think a talk show just has to be some same people with good rapport. And then magical things can happen even without news. So I'm kind of I understand the whole StarCraft 2 doesn't have a lot to talk about. We're not going to be like League of Legends with constantly draft picking and teams moving and shit like that. But I do think you can still have a good time. So
Yeah.
And if you do it, there is plenty of news. WTL just finished their qualifiers. There's always something happening.
there is. Yeah. So thank you all for the support. And thanks to you guys again. And I'll let you go. Bye.